We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Item 3 on the agenda, rules of order. This body has adopted Robert's Rules of Order along with our own additional rules of order. For the meeting, I ask any presenters and members of the public when they're addressing the council to address the chair along with the council. Likewise for council members and following our rules of order. With that, agenda number 4, adoption of the Ellsworth City Council minutes for the following meeting, January 20, 2026. How would the council like to proceed regarding our minutes?
Move to accept.
A motion to accept.
Second.
A second. Any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Council agenda item number 5, presentations of awards. We have 2 awards to present tonight for years of service. Our first is for Brendan Levitt. The City of Ellsworth proudly presents this certificate of service to Brendan Levitt in recognition of 5 years of service in the fire department. His devotion to duty and loyalty to the community have contributed to the improvement of the City of Ellsworth. I'm understanding Brandon's not here. Okay, well, thank you very much, Brandon. And our other award. The City of Ellsworth proudly presents this certificate of service to Robert Angelo in recognition of 5 years of service in the police department. His devotion to duty and loyalty to the community have contributed to the improvement of the City of Ellsworth. I believe Robert is not here as well tonight. Well, Troy will take it for him. Oh, that'd be great. Troy, if you want to come up and grab this. Agenda item number 6, the city manager's report.
Well, thank you, Chair Lyons, and good to be back here. It's been a very stressful day for me. It's school vacation week, and I had my childcare fall through for today, so I had to kind of rearrange meetings, do some remote meetings, drove in with the kids to Ellsworth once, and then back to Cassine, and was driving home with my son and daughter, and my son could tell I was stressed because I was like, my wife doesn't make it back from Portland. I'm going to have to bring him and my daughter to the council meeting. And what if my 4-year-old doesn't think this is exciting for 3 or 4 hours? What am I going to do? And I was like doing my, just like, all right, we're going to get through it. My son is just so perceptive, noticed that. He's like, what are you stressed out about? And I said, well, I got the city council meeting tonight, and I've had you guys here, and sometimes people are pretty mean to me in there, and they say pretty nasty things that are not true, and they kind of question a bunch of things, and he just goes, he looks at me as only a 7-year-old could and said, don't worry about that. Like, that's just life, Father. And he's like, my sister does that kind of thing to me all the time. And I had a bully last year. That's all he did was bully me. And like, you just got to get. I was like, you know what? Thank you, Teddy. Let's focus on a lot of the amazing things that the city is doing, that our staff are doing, that the community is doing. And one of those big things, I just got a letter in the mail, and then I think it was also sent to our council chair that our application was approved and it's proceeding forward from the state of Maine for our downtown to be placed in the National Registry of Historic Places. So really, really exciting about that. And I can take, and you know, this city really can take very, very little credit for it. The credit belongs to the heart of Ellsworth and that group of people who did an incredible amount of job. A little bit of assist with some good input from our historic teams here and some members of the council ourselves. Obviously, it's a partnership whenever that kind of designation moves forward. But another thing, as I mentioned in one of my reports, that Chair Beal said, Ellsworth is a gateway to nowhere. It's a gateway to here. And I think that historic designation, that piece is another part of that. We got some breaking ground at the courthouse that's going to come later this year, a $60 million investment in the city of Ellsworth, which I think is well needed. Some ordinance reform. I know we talked earlier in the month at a council workshop on some city council ordinance changes, or some ordinance changes to the land use ordinance that are thinking to really make our ordinances a lot more business friendly. I would say, step one of those is kind of a cleanup. You could tell that, that 600-page document was edited probably 600 times, and nobody bothered to read it through to make sure that each of the edits kind of made sense. There's a kind of a stage one on make the document make sense. That would be nice for the business owners. Even our own staff going through a lot of these pieces, it's pointing people in different directions, and you can't reconcile that. So that'll be step one, along with a lot of the changes for state law that are just required now. So getting our ordinance readable, comprehensible, not self-contradictory. And then step two is going to have a little bit more of kind of policy prescriptions, some of which we talked about, narrowing of the scope of the zoning board of appeals so that housing projects, especially large-scale ones, could move forward. There's pros and cons on both sides of that. Narrowing the scope of the planning board's authority so that the code enforcement officer can approve certain housing projects to move forward quickly. There's there's pros and cons on those as well. And there's a bunch of other ones, including things like have issues with violations happening, we have to send it to the state judiciary to kind of move forward. That takes a long time. Council's looking for action on an ordinance or a code violation. There's a potential option that the council could start hearing some of those things directly, so we could get to action quicker. Pros and cons on that as well. But there'll be more citizen input, more workshops on those pieces. We had our first one this last week. The big push over the next month or so is going to be TIF. I won't talk too much tonight. I'll also note that it says discussion, potential action. That there really is no action tonight. It's more of we've had a fair amount of workshops on this. We budgeted for our consultant here over a year ago now, and we're coming to the kind of the fruition of that work. Really exciting. Especially, I was at a municipal conference for municipal innovation recently, and talking to a lot of the other city and town managers about that project, and those towns that have $5-6 million in a TIF account to spend on big infrastructures when they need it. Those cities and talking to the city managers and town managers and I've also worked in those towns that hadn't been planning for this for years, and they are experiencing growth, and they have no way to kind of figure it out. So I think there's some really exciting work to be done here in rural America that's experiencing so much growth, which I think is kind of it's just such an incredible time to be in Ellsworth. I feel so lucky as a city manager to work with you all. I'm sure those driving past the Hilton Home to Suites, that's a $20+ million investment in the city that's moving forward. I can't believe how fast they built that new Dice Arts, hundreds of housing units, new tractor dealerships coming online. Very, very fortunate in rural America to see this type of growth, but how do we prepare for it? How do we make sure our infrastructure is aligned for it? How do we make sure our ordinance can promote more of this under the face of really large growth pressures? So really excited about the work ahead and excited about the work tonight. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Charlie. Next on the agenda is committee reports. Any councilors have any reports regarding their committee work?
I do.
Councilor White?
Okay, so for the Arbor Commission, leading up to budget season, the Arbor Commission thought it was really important to hold a panel series on emerald ash borer. We have made a recommendation to the Parks and Rec Department to seek treatment for our ash trees, and the City Council, all of us, will soon be hearing about what Ellsworth faces in the next few years when the pest shows up in our city. The first public talk is scheduled for Wednesday, March 4th from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Moore Center, and is called Pests and Disease, The Cost of Doing Nothing, where a panel of local experts speak to the costs, risks, and possible outcomes associated with doing nothing in terms of treating ash trees for emerald ash borer. The second panel is planned for our Arbor Day event late in April and will be called Ash Significance in Culture and Ecology, where we'll dive into ecological, industrial, and historical importance of ash trees. So I'm highly encouraging the public and the city councilors to attend these talks if possible and to pay attention to Yodel and local news sources for more information on those. And another very exciting thing for the city, the Arbor Commission has secured another $20,000 Project Canopy grant. This grant will be used to fund an intern for the 2026 summer season for work at the Ellsworth City Forest, as well as aid in planning and education activities in 2026 and 2027. This intern will work to inventory and map key resources, trails, and roads, as well as assist in tree nursery and other summer events. I want to pat the Arbor Commission on the back and congratulate them for receiving over $200,000 in grant funding since the initial appointment of the Arbor Commission members in 2023. This shows what dedicated volunteers working with the city staff can do when resources and funding is limited. So congratulations to everyone in Ellsworth.
Great.
Yay.
Thank you, Councilor White. Anyone want to have to follow that?
I do. Yeah, I love following you. Historic Preservation was supposed to meet tomorrow, but that's not going to happen, so we are going to meet early in March. In our last meeting, we did approve in part the COA for 71 Main Street.
COA.
Certificate.
Certificate of appropriateness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You found this college yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was, part of it can't be approved because we don't have pictures and it's an incomplete application, but we did approve it in part. And then I got an email that Twyla's coming on as representative to, staff representative to Historic Preservation. So I think that's all.
Great.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you. Any other counselors? Any other committee reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 8, citizen comments. It's the opportunity for citizens to provide comments on matters relevant to the city that are not on the agenda. There'll be opportunities for citizen comments when we get to matters that are on the agenda. I ask that if you'd like to provide citizen comment, please approach the dais, state your name for the record, and we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Sir?
Hi, good evening. Toby Stevenson. I'm a citizen here in Ellsworth. I moved to Ellsworth 2005 or so with my family. We moved from Lemoyne and before that from Bar Harbor. But we moved to Ellsworth because we thought it was a whole town. It has a lot of stuff here, and it's a really great slice of middle America. And we chose this town to raise our children. And we think it was the best decision we ever made. We love living here. And really this is, and I really appreciated what Manager Pierce said earlier. There's a lot of really great things happening here. And we really love this community. And I know you guys get piled on with a bunch of pissy crap from people about stuff from time to time. And as a citizen, and I know a number of citizens in this town that work, I've been on the planning board and I've served on different committees and things over the years. I haven't done a lot lately because I've been distracted with a lot of things, but a lot of people really do like this town and they like the hard work that you, and especially the employees and the people that work for the city of Ellsworth. It's a lot of work, and you're all coming out here in the evenings, and people from different departments in the city come here. They do extra work, extra time. A lot of people come up here and gripe, but not a lot of people come up here to say how wonderful it all is and how hardworking everybody is. And that's what I want to do, and I want to do that on behalf of many of the people I know that feel the same. So thank you all for your work, and thank you to the employees and all of the other people that give into this town. It's a really wonderful town, and it's really appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll close citizen comments. Councilor comments. This is an opportunity for councilors to provide comments, for matters not on the agenda. And likewise, we ask that the councilors take no more than 3 minutes. So any councilors? Councilor Smith? Councilor Shea? Councilor Halloran?
Absolutely. Recently, Patrick Lyons and I went through an onboarding process at the Ellsworth Police Department. And I had no idea all that goes into the department and the individual employees. And when you drive by an automobile sitting, a police car sitting on High Street, you just think that there's a police car sitting on High Street, at least I did. And when we went through this onboarding, which was 45 minutes or an hour, it was really incredible to learn that all that goes on while that officer is sitting at a police detail doing traffic or what have you, while they're sitting there, there is so many reports and procedures that go on, and I had no idea that from one phone call to the police department, all the reporting and collection of data that goes on, I was in complete shock. And the other thing that struck me is the presentation about the amount of people that are retiring in the next 7 or 8 years. There is a lot of seasoned people that are going to be retiring. And finally, one of the things that I was impressed by is the grant writing that I forget the officer's name. Thank you, the big, tall Chad Wilmot. There's been some chatter, and I've congratulated him in the past about being the top earner in the city of Ellsworth because he works the most hours in the city of Ellsworth and takes a lot of shifts to make everybody's life easier. And I've always been impressed by that. With the year after year, he takes all of these shifts that creates less people to be forced to do shifts. And I think that needs to be recognized in a big way. And then, you hear the static about the amount of money that this person earns, but when you look at the hours that he works, and then I learned in this presentation that he's also the grant writer for the police department. And I asked the question, how much money does this guy bring in to grant writing? And it was over $100,000 last year. That while he's doing all of this work, he is writing grants to bring in money to that department. And after that, I asked, well, could we look back 5 years and see how much has been done? And it's about $300,000. So it's about $60,000 a year that that department is bringing in because Mr. Wilmot is a grant writer to offset that big salary. So it's not just doing overtime. While we're doing overtime, where the man's out seeking grants and has landed $300,000 in 5 years. That's something I didn't know, and I learned a lot. And I asked a lot of questions afterwards, and they got back to me. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Halloran. Councilor White?
Yes, I do have more to say. Oops, sorry. I'm trying to learn my new iPad. As an avid volunteer, I wanted to highlight the work that the Moose Lodge is doing right now, specifically Bill Nelson and Tony Wyman, who have started a citywide volunteer roster that aims to gather information on Ellsworth area citizens interested in giving back to their community. And currently, they're asking interested people to reach out directly to the Moose Lodge via phone. They plan to provide this list to the city in order to help the staff achieve goals and work on projects that may be under-resourced and underfunded. And typically, these are events that we all love. So, Charlie also mentioned tonight the historic designation that we've gotten. And I just wanted to share some of the costs it took to get to that point. It costs a total of $62,000 for us to get the application submitted. That included staff time, consultants, workshops, just to submit that application. And I want to highlight that this was not paid for by the city, and instead it was paid for through Heart of Ellsworth, a nonprofit that worked to gather money from local businesses and grant money from 2023 to 2025 to get us here. So just tonight, I personally have spoken about a nonprofit, a volunteer commission, and a local fraternity working closely with the city to leverage money and labor hours to support our limited capacity as a small city. And I really want to thank everyone that I mentioned and the many others that I didn't get to mention here for putting in all the work to make the city better for everyone. And I strongly encourage the city to continue working closely with partners outside of City Hall to help reach our goals. So thank you, everyone that works hard for Ellsworth.
Thank you, Councilor White. Councilor Mountain now. Councilor Smith?
No, thank you.
And I'll just, following up on Steve's comments, Councilor Halloran's, yeah, it was a great visit with the police department. Actually, I think it went for 2.5 hours, Steve. We were just having so much fun, and time flies. Yeah, you know, I've always had a lot, you know, every interaction I've had, including getting pulled over a few months ago for my taillights being out, by a trainee who did an excellent job. We are lucky to have such a excellent, professional, and caring police department, and I just thank you guys for having me, and thank you for all that you do for the city. So with that, we'll move on to unfinished business. Agenda item number 10, public hearing and action on updates to Chapter 56 Unified Development Ordinance related to performance standards for adult use cannabis, and updates to Chapter 14 licenses and permits in Chapter 56 Unified Development Ordinance related to performance standards medical cannabis. I believe we have our Urban Planning and Development Director here to speak to us.
Yes, that's right. Good evening, everyone. Danielle Gift, Urban Planning and Development Director. So my request is for City Council to have reviewed and to subsequently approve the proposed cannabis-related revisions to Chapter 56, which is our Unified Development Ordinance, and Chapter 14, our Licenses and Permits chapter. These revisions were necessary to include the adult use cannabis store performance standards, that's in Chapter 56, Article 8, that accompany the recently adopted adult use cannabis store license, that is in Chapter 14. And additionally, the revision of the medical cannabis dispensary license in Chapter 14 and the performance standards that go with it, per request by City Council at the January 20th meeting of 2026. I do want to note that there were some minor reference errors that were caught today, and I apologize for that, both in Chapter 14 and the performance standards. Any reference to Article 9 should actually be Article 12, which is our signage article. And the medical performance standards are indeed Article 817, not 814. All of those have been fixed since they were brought to my attention today, and they will be the fixed version going to the clerk's office, so.
Great, thank you. Councilors, any questions for Danielle? Councilor Smith?
What's the process after this?
So the next step is to do a citywide mailer for the cannabis overlay zone that dictates where the adult use cannabis stores can be located within our city. and we're looking to get that out as soon as possible. And once that is done, we will be ready to open the application window, which will be open for 30 days. After that, there'll be a lottery. If we have more than 3 complete applications within that period, the city council will be asked to approve conditionally any licenses that come through. So when the lottery happens, we can subsequently assign the license to whoever was drawn in the lottery.
Great, thank you. Any other councilor questions? Seeing none, this has been noticed as a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. If anyone has any comments on the proposed ordinance amendments, now's the time to approach the dais and provide us any comments, and we ask that you keep them to 3 minutes. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Councilors, how would you like to proceed?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the request of the Urban Planning and Development Director to revise Chapter 14 License and Permits Ordinance and Chapter 56 Unified Development Ordinance as presented and fixed, effective immediately, as of today.
I will second.
Second, we have a motion and a second on the table. Any other further discussion from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Yeas carry. Agenda item number 11, public hearing and action on the application for new business license Ellsworth MV LLC DBA Marijuanaville, 71 Main Street for a new medical marijuana dispensary license, including a city victualler license. And I believe we have a memo here from Ebony and Council, well, yes.
Yeah, I can.
City Manager Pierce.
I can we have our attorney as well here, who I think should probably just give the council a little more background and be available for some questions. I know I wasn't able to attend, but it seemed like it was a little spicy at the January meeting on this topic. So, and thank you, Danielle and our teams. I mean, they, in addition to kind of getting the recreational piece together, I think cleaning up a lot of our medical licensing, performance standards, making sure that's in line so that recreational and medical have the same rules applying. So on signage, on blacking out windows, on other pieces that really, I think, kind of surfaced at the last meeting, which weren't quite ready for prime time if we were to move forward on this license, especially in downtown in the historic Main Street area. So I'd love to maybe invite our attorney up, just talk a little bit more about that and what approval of this license would mean going forward as well. I think there's sort of a couple options to consider here. There's just the approval, now that the performance standards for medical are in place, that our Main Street would have that same requirement on blacked out windows, no use of kind of cannabis or pictures and that type of things. That's really robust. We don't want children and other people being advertised to, and really having some strong performance standards for medical as well as recreational. I think is important. But there's also the fact that a license is being transferred that as mentioned at a previous meeting on kind of the grandfathering clause and how this has moved over and how the state license was approved, and then this was really out of conformity with I think the intention of these licenses to begin with. There's supposed to be one medical license. We've sort of grandfathered this other one. Boss Lady Genetics has been, as Ebony noted, when we approved their license, I think last year at some time, they've been in conformance to everything. They've been a pleasure to work with. It was a little bit not ideal, the process that went through. Not everything was accounted for, but I think as a state level, that's kind of been the process of this recreational sort of regulatory regime, and then there's the medical one, and that they don't have testing requirements for the medical, which seems counterintuitive that the recreational would be more tested than the medical side of things. These are things to consider, but also the fact that we have had two medical stores when the ordinances allow for one. We've sort of allowed that other one to grandfather over based on its original license, but now that license is being transferred. And also in terms of some of our other policies that we're applying to recreational, including this overlay zone, that it wouldn't be allowed in the Main Street area. It's more of a historic area that's within a certain amount of feet to other restricted zones that we typically wouldn't even permit this in. So I'll let council decide. This, I do feel, there's pros and cons on both sides of this. One is, essentially moving forward on this license does kind of create almost like a transferable liquor license. We don't do those in Ellsworth, but this would be essentially, that it's not just the building ownership that has value. It's do you hold a medical marijuana license on Main Street in perpetuity that transfers from business owner to business owner in perpetuity? Do we want to just give an exemption on just this one level or move forward under our current grandfathering laws? But our attorney also has some additional guidance on if the council would want to alter the grandfathering clause for the specific purpose and visit this, that it's information for the council to decide from. So with that, I'll send it to Tim to see if he has some things to add.
Good evening, Tim Pease, City Attorney, and I think the manager did a nice job laying out the situation. I've been before you in the past on this particular issue, but just to, I think, recap just a couple of things as a reminder. The word grandfathering has been used a lot here. I think we use legacy rights now as another word for grandfathering. Same sort of thing. So what that means is if you've done something for a period of time in a particular location, do you have the right to continue that into the future? And that's, you see that a lot as, let's say, small houses close to the water and so forth. That's where it comes up a lot. But it really can apply to almost any sort of use or structure in the city. On the other hand, you also have a chapter in your ordinances that talks about licensing. The licenses aren't transferable. So licenses are different than a permit or a long-standing use or a long-standing structure. And the reason for that is that certain things require a license because they involve particular safety issues, food issues, and so forth. So you don't need a license from the city for everything, but you do for certain things. And they're not transferable because you want to make sure that the new person that comes along is capable of living up to the expectations that you have under the ordinances. So in this particular case, we had a situation where the location, there's some legacy rights involved there. There was some confusion over the state granting of licenses and so forth. And then a new owner comes along and they need to get a new license. And in the process of that, it exposed a gap in the ordinances about what are the standards that should apply to a medical use in the particular area that we're talking about in the downtown district. So frankly, I've not seen a municipality act this fast to come up with regulations and get them passed. I mentioned moratorium when I was here last time because generally that's what it takes. You need 6 months or so to get these things done, but you got it done in a month. Those are your new regulations that you just passed. So my recommendation is that you look at the application, you look at the ordinances that were just passed, and I think it's up to you as councilors to determine whether or not you think the applicant has demonstrated an understanding of what the requirements are and has the capability to follow those requirements. Happy to answer any questions.
Question, Tim. So as far as the legacy rights go, the building itself does not provide any, just because the previous cannabis business was there, there's no right to continue that business if under new ownership?
The license itself to operate medical cannabis is not automatically transferable. You have to get a new license to do that. I think when grandfathering and legacy rights were discussed here, I think it was in the context of looking at the totality of circumstances, the situation, and applied some fairness and said, is it fair to, given the confusion that's happened in the past, to deny a new owner the opportunity to operate there? Maybe not. But at the same time, making sure that the city's objectives in making sure that signage and so forth is proper in that particular district is important as well. So I think that's why, in my view, it was tabled for a period of time to allow the new ordinances to come into effect.
And is it your opinion that the ordinances as adopted just now tonight would apply to the new license holder? And
Yes.
thus they'd be required to adhere to all the standards that we just adopted?
Yes.
Any other questions from council for the city attorney in this matter?
I have a question. Do they need to be currently adhering to our updated ordinance? Or do we allow them time to make sure that their windows meet our specifications, advertisements, marketing, whatever? Because we've just passed it. Yeah, I guess, how do we proceed there?
So in a permitting situation or a licensing situation, you can have conditions. So I think you might consider a condition saying you've got to comply with these new requirements. They were just passed tonight, but there's a period of time within which to comply with those requirements, and then it would be up to the code enforcement officer to double check and make sure the requirements are met within a particular period of time.
I guess I'm wondering to have them, maybe Tim, to, this is, the company's, the license is requesting, it's called marijuana bill, which is outside of the allowable use of a performance standard for there. So it says, new license for Ellsworth MV LLC, DBA doing business as Marijuanaville. In some ways, that in and of itself is now a violation, I believe, of the performance standard. So are you talking, are there guarantees that you'd like to see for this license application that we will be in compliance with the new,
Yeah.
before you would move forward to
Right,
approve?
right. I wouldn't want to approve something without those conditions in place with our new ordinance, right?
Any other councilor questions for the city attorney? Councilor Smith?
This business was in the news recently for issues with the product. How does that filter into the work that we do here,
So
if at all?
there's dual jurisdiction over facilities like this through the state. It's my understanding the state would, generally speaking, address those types of quality issues. If you are worried about them as a city, and I think that would be proper, just like with any business that's has a impact on the safety of people that visit it, then I think you could ask for assurances from that applicant. What's being done about this? How are you following up? Do you have any results yet? Are you under suspension? Those would be normal questions to ask of an applicant.
And that wouldn't necessarily be part of the motion tonight, but how we would treat this moving forward.
I think that is fair game every day of the year. If you find that or feel that there's some licensee that has some violations or you're concerned about that, that would be something you could work through the manager and the code enforcement officer if you felt there was a threat to public health.
Okay.
Any other questions for city attorney? This is noticed as a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Anyone from the public would like to provide comments on this matter, please approach the dais. Thank you.
Roger Gilly, city resident. My thought on this is that there's multiple talks about the location of it being too close to parks, this, that, and whatnot. So my idea is, we do have the park that we put in the summertime out here, which it doesn't really bother me either way. But my thought is that if this is in an area where it's too close from what you guys had talked about previously, and say we allow 2 more places to open up in Ellsworth and they decide that they want to be on Main Street. If we let one open on Main Street because it's too close, we need to let everybody open on Main Street. That'd be too close. To be fair, Just because there's a previous store there that, now is in the gray area of too close, not too close. If we're gonna allow it still to run there, we need to allow everybody to run, if they can, on Main Street or anywhere else that might be too close, just to be fair. That's all I gotta say.
Great, thank you. Any other public comments on this matter? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Councilors, how would you like to proceed with this matter? Well, I have a few thoughts. And I'm conflicted about this one. We just adopted ordinances that are to focus our cannabis businesses in a cannabis overlay zone, which hopefully we'll adopt through this process, which is not on Main Street. As the public comments noted, this is in close proximity to a number of places that might otherwise it would not be allowed there under our new ordinances. I'm also pretty concerned about the health issue regarding this business. It was the first, according to the Office of Cannabis Policy, it issued its first medical cannabis patient advisory for contaminated medical cannabis products. And it also provided a breakdown of the levels of, these were pesticides. And some of them exceeded the permitted amounts by 44 times, or 190 times, including one chemical that is considered highly toxic to humans, level 2 fatal. So that's something I think we need to consider. Our ordinances for a license review, we can deny a license if there's a finding that the permittee conducted business in an unlawful manner or in such a manner as to constitute a breach of the peace or to constitute a menace to the health, safety, and welfare of the public. If, that is something to consider. If the council wants to approve this license, I think we have to have very strict conditions regarding, ensuring full compliance, including with public health. But otherwise, I'm very hesitant to license this business considering the totality of the circumstances regarding it. I don't take that statement lightly. I'm not looking to stop businesses or anything like that, but considering the location of the business and the fact that it's the first ever medical business to be issued a patient advisory, I have real concerns about allowing them to operate on Main Street. Councilor O'Halloran?
Was this business open last week? Anybody know? It's operating today?
I believe it's operating under the Boss Lady Genetics license, which is until June 30th, is that correct? May 31st is when their current business license lapsed. So it's operating under its current business license. And now there'll be new performance standards, which we'll have to review going forward.
The other question that I would just raise is simply this. Does the state test all facilities, and this is the only one that came up short? Or did they just test this one? Do they test the other ones in Ellsworth? That's my question, and I don't know that anybody here has that answer. but- You do?
Yeah. So the bulletin that was issued by the state notes that, so it states, while OCP has the authority to issue recalls to the adult use cannabis program, Maine law does not give OCP the same authority in the main medical use of cannabis program. As such, the medical cannabis patient advisory issued today aims to make patients aware of 5 strains of medical cannabis concentrates that were sold at Marijuanaville, various levels. However, because consistent representative mandatory contaminant testing is not required by the medical cannabis program law, OCP is limited to the amount of information and detail it can provide about the scope of the contamination. So adult use is highly regulated and testing is required. Medical, there's no testing required. So the reason this came to the OCP's attention is someone used the product and made a complaint that it had caused, significant health impacts to them. And I think that goes to speak more generally that medical marijuana is not regulated in that regard, while, the city's moving forward with allowing for adult use cannabis businesses to operate, which are regulated, which have required testing, and so that's another consideration here that we want to, we're welcoming and opening up businesses for adult use, which include testing, but otherwise, this kind of medical marijuana. And again, otherwise this business would not be there if it weren't for grandfathering that happened in 2019. So we have no assurance that further testing will be done or if anything would be revealed.
So
Wow.
those issues could be in many of those facilities that haven't been complaint savvy.
Certainly, yeah.
Depends upon whether a customer procures some product and they use it and they become ill.
Yeah, and
And,
I don't quite want to,
yeah, I don't
worry
wanna
about
put
that happening
anybody-
again.
I don't really like the idea of having a business that's gonna, I find it weird that the state didn't put something in place to make sure the patients, because it is medical, are protected.
I agree 100%, Pat. It doesn't make
I'm-
any sense to me.
I don't, yeah.
Councilor, or
Oh,
Manager Smith.
we're kind of like in a rock and a
Manager
hard
Pierce.
spot, you know what I mean?
I'm just curious on your question, Patrick, on the difference in the regulatory environment. Not that I want to open up more regulation and moving different ways, but can the city have stricter performance standards when it comes to testing? Like, could you say, this would require a testing, as part of this process too? Because, to your point, there is no requirement from the state. We're hoping they're going to, on the recreational side, there is a requirement from the state. We can let them do the regulating of the health and safety of recreational cannabis. But even if we move forward, sure, the signages can't be any different or than the recreational side, but even if going forward, if they did move on this license, that still would be the option, like there is an untested area. Can you add that kind of regulation to things? Or is that really health and safety is for the state?
I could spend a lot longer than 2.5 hours on home rule. It might seem longer than 2.5 hours, I would say it's shorter. So under home rule authority, municipalities get to regulate in an area unless the state has said, we're going to regulate in this area to the exclusion of municipalities. I haven't read the law that closely to figure out whether, I have an opinion on whether the city could regulate that or not. I would say that it goes both ways. If you choose to regulate something more carefully, I think you're also taking on some responsibility to make sure you have the right testing and you've got the right qualities and so forth, or there may be some liability associated with that. Again, that's just my initial thoughts on that issue.
Councilor Martin?
I kind of think that sounds like a logistic nightmare and a liability nightmares for the city to get into the pot testing business.
If we could try.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Councilor Smith?
I'm trying to understand what the, I guess, options are here. We can approve the license, we can put the constraints on it that we've talked about. What happens if we don't? The new owner can run under boss lady through the end of May, then what happens? Or what are the options for that new business owner? Because this is sounding like a nightmare, I believe is the theme we're using. So if you're the right one to answer the question, what are our options and what's the impact of, it seems to be yes with constraints or no. What are the implications of either of those choices?
Tim Pease, City Attorney again. You can't operate without a license. I think the situation right now is they're operating on a temporary license, and we know that expires in 3 or 4 months. I'm going to go out on a limb here and offer some other options because I'm listening to the situation. I think one thing you could do is you think about it, it's a business that's operating right now. And there's some concerns, health concerns. I think I heard a name concern maybe and so forth. You could say, come back with a new application in 2 weeks or some period of time that addresses these concerns that we have. Give it to the city, let the city run, give a thorough look at it and make a recommendation to the city council. That might be a way to thread the issues that you're talking about right now, as opposed to having to make a particular decision one way or the other.
So what I'm hearing is one option is, we've talked about what is the effective, how long do we give the new owner to comply with the new rules, and there are other concerns. The business can continue to run through the end of May. So if we don't make the decision tonight, we can send a letter to say, here are the concerns, and whether we're, I guess, tabling this again, or if it's a new application. And then if we are clear about what the concerns are and what we're looking at to address them, that could be considered in a future decision about a new license for a new business. But to Councilor Halloran's point, it is still running now, it's operating now, and it will for another couple of months, and that does give us time to articulate what the concerns are, what we're looking for solutions, and a set time to respond to it or not. That's what I heard from what you were saying.
I think there's some discretion about the timing of requiring this business to comply with the ordinances that were just passed. Is 4 months too long? Is 2 days too short? I think that's a policy choice for the council to make.
So would you be, essentially, if we tabled this tonight based on some of what I'm hearing, that I would maybe reach out to this business owner, talk about the performance standards that have just been passed, that they'd be able to be in compliance, maybe some sort of certification, but also kind of prepping 2 options here, which is that piece, can they apply with the performance standards? I believe Councilor Lyons, you mentioned some health issues that you might want to have them come in on to discuss, or that they can provide for me and I can get you some sort of statement on. But then there's this other piece on, do we want to allow this business to be there on Main Street? Would you like that option prep too, or are we just looking for the performance side of things? Or is this the grandfathering that I would also be looking into?
I feel like we would want to ask what they're going to do, what they are doing to mitigate the health and safety issues that they're having. And for us to be able to review his plan that he has in place to ensure that he's not procuring weed, marijuana, that is. Cannabis.
Go through all of them.
All of them. That is harmful to our residents and visitors.
Okay.
I don't think I think that we're kind of trying to operate here from a position of, we want to ask the questions, but we're not sure what to ask them. You're saying to him, what are you going to do to mitigate these issues? But will we know when he comes back with an answer if that's sufficient? No, we're not. I just think this is a bad idea. That is my opinion.
Councilor Shea?
I make a motion to deny the new business license for Ellsworth MV LLC doing business as Marijuanaville.
Motion on the table, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. Further discussion from the council? Seeing none, Councilor Halloran?
Just like to throw out, I guess I'm going to say that unpopular thing. Trying to look at all sides here, and it certainly is a conundrum to change a set of rules for an existing business and then squash this process that's going on here. And although I respect everything I've heard here tonight, I'm not sure how much credibility that I have or that I feel. If you're a pot buyer that 10 years ago you bought in the underground world, if you're taking the risk of buying pot, you're taking that risk every day of that report that you see. And I just want to throw that out there, that somebody complained, but a lot of people buying the product don't give a damn, because they were buying it in the underworld before. I just want to throw that out there. I'm not saying that that is acceptable, or that where I'm not in favor of the advancements, but this at one time was illegal behavior.
Councilor Martineau?
Well, I have to disagree with you, Councilor Halloran, because the people that you're talking about are not the people that were buying a lid in back of the Irving in, okay.
What's a lid?
I learned so much at these meetings.
Yeah, no, the people that,
Sorry, I've never tried it. What the hell is a lid?
welcome to the 60s. Look, my point is medical marijuana is I don't understand why this oversight is so terrible, because you're talking about people on chemotherapy, on immunotherapy, with catastrophic end-stage life diseases. Those are the people who are using medical marijuana, not.
What's a lid?
It's, no, I'm not going there. Just a system of weights and measures.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know. I didn't mean to take.
Oh, no. I really enjoyed that. Councilor Shea, go ahead.
I made a motion, look, I don't want to stop businesses. I'm pro-business, but I made my mind up that we need to give this person that wants to open a business here an answer. There's way too many issues that don't conform, okay? So that's why I made the motion.
Thank you, Councilor Shea. And I'll just note, I plan to vote in favor of denying the application. Again, I don't take it lightly, but considering the health issues here, the fact that this is not a regulated entity, while when it comes to health and safety, it really gives me concern. At the same time, we're going to be this year approving 3 new adult use cannabis businesses in Ellsworth. So as far as people will still have access to cannabis, but it'll be regulated. And so that's part of my reasoning. But ultimately, I don't think it's the right location, and I don't think this business has satisfied our licensing criteria. Is there any other, Councilor Smith?
I just want to add, this has been a really thoughtful conversation, and I want to thank all of you that I came in open and leaning, but really needing to hear, and particularly the last 10 minutes, in addition to being entertaining. But
I always try.
it was, I'm now comfortable voting for the pending measure. I think it is the appropriate thing to do because of the conversation we've had here and the input from the attorney. So this is how it's supposed to work, and I'm happy that, I don't know what the vote is yet, but I feel comfortable with my vote now, and I was unsure when I came in, so Thank you.
There's only one way to find out, Nancy. Any other comments before we vote? Seeing none, all those in favor denying the application? All those opposed to denying the application? 6-1. Thank you. Like, I agree, thank you, Councilor.
Yeah.
This is not an easy one. Agenda item, we're on now on the consent agenda, and we do have a consent agenda item. All items with an asterisk are considered routine, will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the normal sequence of the agenda. Thank you for coming. Agenda item number 12, Council Order number 022600, request of the Deputy City Clerk to hold a special municipal budget validation referendum election on June 9th, 2026. We have our deputy, who's speaking on this one, Charlie?
This is going to be our General Assistance Director, our Director of Social Services, Katina, I believe is.
Tina here. If you want to, you don't have to. You look comfortable.
This is just, I'm just trying to hold an election. This is the typical
Yeah, we-
yearly thing I bring to you guys.
Okay.
There is conversation later in the agenda, though.
There is.
Well, on that note, it's not noticed as a public hearing. Council, any discussion on this item? Seeing none, do I have any suggested or proposed motions? Councilor Smith?
N. Smith or M. Smith?
And-
I move to approve the request of the Deputy City Clerk to hold a special municipal school budget validation referendum election on June 9th, 2026 for the purpose of validating the school budget.
I second.
N. Smith first, M. Smith second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, councilors. New business. Agenda item 13, public hearing and action on the application for renewal for the following licenses. Atlantic Coast Inn, 200 High Street for renewal of a city lodging license. Govs LLC, DBA Governor's Restaurant and Bakery, 253 High Street, for renewal of a city Class C license, victualler and liquor, and renewal of a state restaurant Class 2, 3, and 4 malt and Venus liquor license. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Shay?
Oh, no, I was gonna make a motion.
Oh, well, it's a public hearing, so we gotta do that first,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
appreciate your zest for
Yeah.
motions. This is a public hearing on these two licenses. I'll open it. Is there any public comment regarding these two license applications? Seeing none, I will close it. Councilor Shay?
Make a motion to approve the business license renewal for Atlantic Coast Inn, Groves LLC, doing business at Governor's Restaurant and Bakery.
Second.
We have a second. Standard question. Ebony, everything in line? Great. Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item number 14, Council Order number 2022601, discussion of new Ellsworth Recount Policies and Procedures Manual. Tina?
Good evening, Council. Katina Venata-Stein, Director of Social Services, and
Caitlin Miller, Deputy City Clerk.
Deputy City Clerk to me, sorry. We're just here to present the policy and procedures for the recount that happened recently. I'm sure everybody knows about it. And
survived it.
wanted to thank Caitlin because she worked really hard on this. It definitely was, in my opinion, one for the books. So we're really proud of how it came out, and we'd like to put it, the policy, make it an official policy for future recounts, if we need to have one. I don't know if you guys have read it.
I'd hope so. Some of you lived it, I guess. And I would say, like a lot of things, when I arrived, there's not a lot of policies and procedures for how something should operate. And then something unexpected happens, and you say, all right, like, throw out the manual, and especially in something like this, it's like, well, there's some state guidance, but it's not exactly clear on every single place. And it's that those points in times when you really say, like, I hope we have a good team. There were lawsuits threatened by people in that time frame. I know our folks, there was some yelling and some really tough interactions that I felt at every second that, like, gosh, if we mess this one up, the faith in our democracy in some ways is on the line. There had been some other issues earlier with the ballots in the Secretary of State's getting sent here, and like, for me, I used to work in kind of the other side of the elections, helping people run for elections, like, and I've been on that side where you're trying to challenge something, and this could be all the process. If they're not perfect, it really opens up government to this, like, and the whole way through, Caitlin and Tina and our attorney, Mr. Hamer. Sorry, Tim. It was John gets the credit on that one. They ironed through all these little things. Well, this is what the state laws should be. This is what the city should do. Maybe we should do a run-through with all the candidates. Incredible, and it'd be like, great, let's do that. Hey, there's some edits that we actually made from that run-through with the counters. Should it just be the person who was requesting the recount, or should anybody be involved to have counters? All these things, which were, there was no guidance or templates for all of these. Caitlin and Tina put together huge documents so that, no matter what happened on game day, we followed the right process that was outlined. But it would have been really helpful that we didn't have to not make it up, but figure it out there. And then at the end of the day, I think everybody involved in that process could certify that this was an excellent, well-run. The count is almost exact. In fact, it could have been exact if
It would have been exact if there weren't the two ballots that were in question.
they were in question that could have gone to a judge, and they might have certified, and then it would have triple certified at thousands and thousands of votes. They get packaged up, and not just Tina and Caitlin, too, all of the volunteers that are out there.
Huge team.
They have to sort the municipal and state ballots. They go through the same reader. At the end of the night, they have to pull out each one, and gosh, you don't think about it until you have to break those seals and redo the boxes. I hope they sorted those thousands of ballots perfect, or else there's going to be a wrong ballot in a wrong box, and that's going to, again, kind of put, so it felt like afterwards, like, let's not let 10 years from now, hopefully, not next year, hopefully not the year after, but if there's a recount, like, now we have it in writing. Now we have this policy procedure, all the great work. Nobody will ever know that Caitlin and Tina did, and all our volunteers. But also, so we'll have it as a policy. I don't think this needs to be an official ordinance. We talked to our council that, it can kind of live that way. We'll have it as a policy, and then moving forward, we can
And there's changes in the future. It's easier to make changes in the future if we need
Yeah.
to. Whereas state law changes sometimes too, so.
Exactly. Great.
Like the policy. You guys worked hard.
Yes.
I was impressed. Good job.
Yeah, and as someone who was on the other end of this, your hard work made the process smooth, but having a procedure like this in place would just make it a lot smoother and easier for everyone, because regardless of what side you're on, this process can be incredibly stressful. And sorry, it just a lot.
I could not agree more.
Yeah, but despite everything, it was incredibly smooth and incredibly good despite the chaos. So I kind of can't wait to make this motion.
Councilor O'Halloran?
I've said this before, and I'd just like to make a statement and then a question. The statement is that I thought that, obviously, that was a really tight race, okay? I don't know where the percentages lined up, but it was very tight. And I liked how you did an informational meeting about how it was gonna go and what was gonna take place. And then you did the real thing, with an incredibly long day. I popped in and out a couple of times. And the crucial part is that it came out the way it, well, with the exception of flipping a couple of votes, it came out exactly as it did the first time. And what a credit to the process. I mean, you hear all of this voter stuff going on, and the city of Ellsworth got to see it firsthand, and it didn't change anything, and it could have, with 2 votes or whatever it was, it changed these two's position, but that's all it did. And I thought it was a great thing. And I think that you should be proud of what took place and that the world got to see. The question I have is, how does this policy differ than what happened that day?
So, it's a good question.
I
That-
couldn't figure that out.
Well, the policy, the original policy that we had drawn up that day, we had we had to tweak it actually during the day. So, if you recall, in the beginning, we had set up just at the front table with the few counters. Throughout the process of the day, we thought, wow, we are going to be here for days if we keep this process up.
Yes.
So, we kind of midday met with the attorneys and the candidates and said, you know, we have another idea. So let's try this idea to see if maybe it'll speed it up. And we had to make sure that everybody was okay with that idea, and it turned out they were. So we reset up the whole plan and changed some rules and regulations there for that specific part of it. So the counters, we added that portion into the new policy. And we also added the part where the lawyers were able to act as a deciding factor for the final vote. Like if there was a ballot that was in question, it gave the lawyers the authority to look at the ballot itself to make the decision on where the vote would place.
So this policy here would be exactly what ended up happening that day,
Yes,
okay?
correct.
And as far as this 1.5%, walk me through that. In that process, I don't know the percentages there.
That
Would there have
is-
been a cost to these candidates, or would there not have been a cost to these candidates? with
These,
this?
no. So what happens is, those are actually state regulations. Those
Okay.
are not municipal regulations. So there is a percentage amount of the total votes between the candidates. So if there's a total votes more than 1.5% between the two candidates, there would be a cost involved. If it's under that, then it's free.
And in this most recent one, what was the percentage?
Oh, I do not know, but it was 3
Less than a-
votes, so
yeah,
I don't
less than a
even think I
percent.
could even, it
Point
was.
0.0000.
Yeah, it
Okay.
would have. It's the closest race that I've
Amongst
ever.
3, yeah, not
Yeah.
just 2.
Thank you.
Great. Councilor N. Smith?
Thank you. And just to clarify, that night, I know one vote came in from the state level, so that night, those votes were confirmed the next day with the 2 question ones wouldn't have changed the outcome. That's why it was
Correct.
called.
That vote that you're talking about, those are the new, can't think of.
Accessible ballots.
Accessible
Right.
ballots. God, I keep struggling with that name. So they are hand counted. So that's why people were questioning
Okay.
the outcome that night, because though that actual ballot is not counted off the machine.
Right.
So that's why it made a difference the next day, because we had to add that into the count.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, and it just, yeah, so the recount really affirmed where it ended
correct.
when you were done.
And it wasn't within the margins of error, so regardless of the way a superior judge would have ruled in the
Yeah,
ballot.
it wouldn't have
A
changed.
judge could have ruled on that, and like the count was
Right,
exact.
it would have been the same.
But there was no really a need because, why waste the judge's time if it's going to be the same thing anyway? So, because of the great work the team did ahead of time.
Well, seeing no further discussion from council, would the Councilor like to make a motion on this?
Yeah, stuff like this matters so much for democracy, so let's do this. I move to approve and adopt the policy and procedures for the recount process for the city of Ellsworth as presented.
Second.
Second, Councilor Shay. Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for all your hard work.
Best in the business.
Excellent. Agenda item 15, council order number 022602, update from the tax collector on surplus city properties. Is it Robert?
Sorry, I'm a little slow.
That's okay. No rush.
Thank you. Sue McLean, tax collector. And so basically, I've been asked to give an update on where we are. And everybody knows that tax acquired properties has been a popular subject of late. And so that's what I'm here for tonight, is just to talk about this and to figure out where we go from here. But I've done up an RFP, made that up. It's the first one I've ever done, so I didn't want to just send it out there. I wanted people to look at it and tell me if it was okay, if I need to add something, take something out, what I need to do with that. And as long as everybody agrees and is fine with it, I would like to get it posted as soon as possible to start the process. I think you all have a copy of it. So beyond that, I also wanted to let you know what I'm doing while this is going to be out and about. And I am reviewing every city-owned property, whether it's tax acquired or purchased or gifted to us. There are a few that were. And I am getting all that information together and putting it in this binder. This binder, this Bible, will be available for the council to review all of the information that I've pulled out. And the information that's in it is going to be whether the property was foreclosed on, when it was foreclosed on, who the prior owner was, any additional information that we may have, whether it be any heirs, known heirs right away, without having to do a ton of searching. I am putting everything I can find on here. I'm putting in a copy of the tax map so we know where it is. The billing that is still due to us is going to be in here. I do need to research those that have legal fees and water and sewer and any additional amounts to add. I'm putting it all on a spreadsheet, so it will be, all that information, even though it's in here and all these separate pages, it'll be easier to just look at the spreadsheet and see everything all at once. That's where I'm at right now. I'm just starting with well, I'm not just starting, I've been doing this for a little bit, but I'm starting with the foreclosed properties, so we can get those taken care of first. And then, once I get all of that information together, at least the foreclosed ones, I will give that information to the council. And then I'm moving on to city-owned, all city-owned property, whether, like I said, whether it's something that we were gifted or we bought, or maybe we tax acquired years ago. It's a little bit daunting, actually, because we have properties that show as city-owned, but not tax-acquired. And from what I'm finding is when we had Munis and brought everything over into Trio, those properties just show as city-owned. So I'm trying to figure out which ones of those actually were a foreclosure and go from there. And mark them as tax acquired so that when I pull a report, I get all the tax acquired. Right now, the report for a tax acquired is not as accurate as I would like it to be, so I have to pull a city-owned and tax acquired report, and then go down through and try and figure out which ones to pull over to the other report. So that's where I'm at. Any questions?
Any questions from council for tax collector, Councilor Halloran?
Could you speak a little bit to the new process that
For
the
selling?
state has required of the city, if I understood that correctly? And
Yes.
if you could just run through what you think that might be. I know there's no history here, it's a brand-new product. so-
Right. So basically, when we have tax-acquired properties, we need to, in order to sell them, we need to list them with a Realtor. We do not have any other option, which is why the RFP is going out looking or asking for interested Realtors that we can contract with that want to sell these properties for us. And so there's a whole process to it. As if the Realtor can sell it within 12 months, we're good. If after a year they can't sell it, we need to, at that point, we need to take a look at it again, and I believe we can do a sealed bid at that point. But it's still, the process is that we still would need to set it at a fair value, so to speak. So there would need to have been an appraisal, that kind of thing. Now, leading up to, and through the process of selling it and getting it listed, there's a lot of different steps that I need to take. A lot of notifying. I need to find heirs if I can. They all need to be notified of what's going on, how it's happening, and they also, at each step, need to be aware. So it's a big job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from councilors?
Looks good.
Yeah, sounds good. This was just an update, so it's nothing for us to vote on.
Nope, if you're all okay with the RFP as it's worded, I'm happy. Like I said, it's the first one I've ever done. I had no idea what I was doing, but,
But it looks on Charlie's face, I think he's impressed, you did a good job.
Yeah, and we were gonna, we were gonna bring this to a workshop, and then we had to reschedule. It was kind of a time crunch there, so. And impressed with this, and also looking forward to moving beyond this process with our RFP. I've talked about this before. Sue's never done an RFP before.
Right.
Sends it to me. I refer back to the procurement ordinance. She looks into that, sends me a draft. I provide my edits. She goes, takes back my edits, provides edits on my edits, sends me back to the edits.
yeah, we've been back and
This
forth a
is
lot.
on a single RFP, and, we're going to a new system that will digitize a lot of these processes, so now that it can keep a record of this RFP, and the scoring can be done in the system, and if Sue 4 years ago was like, actually, we need to, the timing's up, we should do maybe in 2 years, we should re-put this out to RFP for a
Right.
new real estate agent that could offer us better terms, these types of things, which will hopefully you just see like all this staff time to all these pieces. It's just great. So
It's a lot of work, the tax acquired property, I realize that.
Yeah, it is.
There's stuff that needs to be, and reading through the law about it, it's like, oh, we're gonna keep this parcel. Oh, no.
Yeah, we can't just keep a
No,
parcel
it has to
anymore.
go- It has to go appraised.
Yep.
And,
We can keep it, but we have to buy it.
yeah,
So,
and we have a lot. I think we held off providing the initial. I mean, Sue's already done a lot of work. We're close to being like, here's the binders of all the parcels, but that would be a 3 in the morning kind of meeting to talk about
and
all these
honestly, we're
properties.
not the only municipality that's done this.
no.
There's others that did this. The state drove this law to the way it is because of other municipalities.
In the Supreme Court, I would
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
not have the same process absorb another round of time on
Yes.
selling a city property.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Good
Yeah.
job. I'm
thank you, Sue.
impressed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions? I'm done?
You better run.
Okay. Thank you. That was a lot easier than I expected it to be.
Come on now, we're not that.
Thank you, Sue. Agenda item number 16, Council Order number 022603, public hearing and action on the request of the Library Board of Trustees to amend the Ellsworth City Charter to increase the number of trustees. Looks like we have our trustees and our library director.
Yes, hello, everyone.
Sarah Lesko, Library Director. I'm just here to introduce you to 3 of our board members who are with us tonight. We would like to increase our trustees from 5 to 7. Mrs. Rain.
Yes,
Perez.
I'm Rain Perez, library trustee. We have most of us here. We're back again, but there are some new faces since we were last here. Pretty much it is as we had discussed before, we just want to increase the board. There are some changes to the wording that we are going to update on the charter regarding the term lengths. So the new positions will have 2-year terms to start, and then we'll go into the 3-year terms like all of the other positions. This just allows us to stagger it out more. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions from council?
Would the trustees in the audience raise their hands? Thank you.
Vivek Phillip and Judy Lyles. And these are volunteer positions.
Highly prestigious volunteer positions.
We have a lot of work to do.
Yes, that is really
And-
where it comes down to. is
We're
the
trying
amount
to
of
make
work.
some big changes, lots of changes over the past 3 years and a lot more to come.
Any other questions from council? M. Smith, Councilor?
This is just more of a comment, but I can, having attended many of the library trustee board meetings, the sheer amount of work that they put in is visible. There's some of the incredibly smoothly run meetings, and this is vital for a library.
And they are open to
Hear,
the
hear.
public. Anyone is welcome to join.
There's one tomorrow.
Tomorrow evening, 6:30.
Do you have to be really quiet, like, because it's in the library?
No, we're very loud.
We actually, we have a lot of fun. I can't go. No, we're allowed.
The library's closed during this.
Okay, this is noticed as a public hearing, so I'm going to open a public hearing. If any members of the public would like to comment on this matter, please approach the dais. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to proceed?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the request of the Library Board of Trustees to amend the Ellsworth City Charter to increase the number of trustees from 5 to 7.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Though I believe you're not supposed to go anywhere.
Nope, next one.
Agenda item number 17, Council Order number 022604, public hearing and action on the request of the Library Board of Trustees to send the proposed amendments to the Ellsworth City Charter to the June 9th, 2026 municipal election. Take it away.
So we want this to go onto the ballot in June with the hope that we can fill the seats in the fall when we will be filling our other 2 upcoming trustee positions.
Great. So that would bring it to, so two more, so there'll be 4 seats
It'll
open?
be 4 seats open this fall, and that's part of why we changed the language on the charter amendment, was so that way we aren't having one year where we have to fill all sorts of seats. But this year, we will. And we do have some people who are interested, but of course, if anyone else is interested, we're very happy. You should come to the meeting tomorrow.
Great. I'm going to open the public hearing. If anyone from the public would like to comment on advancing this to the November election, or June, you may.
Just quickly, just want to throw this out there, because this particular vote depends on voter turnout. So I just want everybody to know that it's a percentage vote. So in order for this to pass, you've got to have 30% of votes from your last gubernatorial election.
Yeah.
So I've done the numbers, the numbers on that, so you need to have a lot.
And this is the
Here she is with her
June
Bible.
election.
Sorry.
June election? Yeah.
Well, I think we have primaries though, so.
So, yeah, this is a prime, this is actually a really good, this is a good time to do this. So, you'll need to have 1,222 votes to pass this particular change. I just wanted to throw
That's the total number
that.
of votes, not the votes in favor, right?
Total number of votes.
People who voted.
Correct, not just whether it's in favor or
Yeah.
not. That's correct.
Come vote in June.
I like that attitude. Yeah,
It doesn't matter if you vote yes or no, just come and vote.
Don't say that.
Any other members of the public comment on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close it. Council, how would you like to proceed?
I would like to advance the motion, if there's no other further discussion.
We can chat afterwards.
Okay, then I move to approve the request of the library Board of Trustees to send the proposed amendments to the Ellsworth State Charter to, why are there months on this? June 9th, 2026 municipal election. I read that right?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you all. Thank you.
See you in June. Great. Excellent. Council agenda item number 18, council order number 022605, discussion and potential action on proposal to lease a building for city/school operational needs. City Manager Pierce?
Yeah.
Mike, we have our,
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Mike Harris, Public Works Director.
great.
As far as I understood, I'm the one that's going to be presenting this, so.
Take it away.
Feel free to jump in anytime, Charlie. No, so what I'm here to talk to you guys about tonight is that, just a brief history, there was an approach made to the city about a property that was actually for some economic development activity potential, and then once we saw the property and we were able to look at it and evaluate it, we realized that it was a really, really excellent space that would allow us to achieve some efficiencies and to consolidate some leases that we pay for the water company, and we pay for the school buses to be stored, and for a fire department vehicle to be stored. This particular property offers us the ability to keep all 18 of our school buses undercover. Also to keep a lot of the equipment that we have that's very valuable. There's enough space in there for the buses, and also, say, a vac truck and other pieces of equipment that the city's invested quite a bit of money into, as well as provide a home for the Parks and Rec Department, provide a home for the Water Department, which would eliminate the lease at the Main Coast Mall, which the Main Coast Mall has been great to us. and then eliminate the lease at the school bus, current school bus location. And again, those people have been very good to us. But when it comes down to protecting our assets, being efficient, and having space to grow in an appropriate spot close to the city hall, within walking distance of the highway garage, this checks all the boxes. And so really what I'm here for isn't to approve us to lease the building. It's really just to approve us to enter into negotiations to see what leasing that building would look like. And so we would like to enter into negotiations with the owner. We put it out to RFP. We had 3 submissions. All 3 submissions were scored. This one scored the highest and met the requirements of the RFP. And so being that it was the one that was selected through the RFP process, we would like permission to now negotiate for that particular property and see what we can come up with for the possibility to lease that property.
Andrew Pierce?
You had a few notes. As Mike's actually, this came originally through, or this property notification came through Bill Clark, the county commission chair. We had a meeting, and I think they're bringing their emergency operations county center is being built out there, and they've already got kind of an anchor property, and he said they've got some kind of a large facility. Like Mike said, actually, I thought of this as originally, we have some economic development people that are always coming through. They just want a big indoor space to do manufacturing or other pieces. Toward it, I was like, wow, this could be, because it was discussed at finance committee meetings, other places. We're coming up to lease terms on the bus garages. There's been some talk about could we consolidate that at the highway garage. I think anybody who's ever seen the snow plows in the highway garages, and the idea of accommodating 13 additional school buses and how many vans? 13?
15 minivans.
15 vans, that consolidation under roof is probably not a possibility. It would take a pretty extensive capital investment to get the highway garage to that place. So talk to the school, talk to the team. Seems like this could be an option, but also we want to do due diligence on what are the best alternatives as well, both in terms of what we're currently at and other places out there that might have a similar type facility or near that might be cost comparable. I know after seeing the police station piece and looking at the news reports on that, we want to make sure that we're looking at all options. And I'd also note that the authorization here, there's no contract. It's really to move forward on lease negotiation. There's, we're a little higher than I'd like to be for budget for what we're currently at. I think it details here what we're currently spending on school, the city. We have some new parks and rec. We have some new assets. These things are depreciating when they're outside when we can't keep them inside. So there's a cost there that I want to figure out. It's, as the current proposal is a little bit outside of that, but then there's some other pieces that we'd really have to iron out. And we have to move quickly. As Mike said, our current leasers are great local businesses. We want to give them some certainty. We're going through this budget process. I need to have a dollar figure there if it's going to be, if we're going to make this change, and those other business owners deserve to know as well. And if not, then that's the status quo. So and then there's the other 2 submissions, all excellent submissions. Tim Peasy can give you more information on this. I wish I could send you all. I think the council does have the other submissions. We're not releasing those public in order to preserve the negotiating position of the city. This has actually happened in the past where another vendor has asked for, after you go through this process, to see what the other vendors scored. But we might not come to terms with this group, and we might go to another group, and then I wouldn't want them to have what the other budget submissions. This has actually happened in a previous meeting when I've had a vendor reach out to say we want the scores, and it hasn't finalized yet, and I reached out to Tim, he's like, don't give them yet, and we actually have gotten a lower price. So that's why there's not additional public information on the other bidders, the pieces. Once we finalize and scored, and if we move to contract, that all might become public records. Same thing if maybe we couldn't even come to terms, and they wanted the public records beyond that, but not until the finalization of the negotiation would we conclude that process and then make those other materials final. Mike?
No, Amy's here. The school board has looked at it. They were all in favor of it. So we have their support. I represent the Public Works Department. I think it's an excellent space for us. We do have the RFP, and, everything in the RFP is negotiable, which is what our attempt would be, is to negotiate the best deal that we can for the city, and also, be fair to the owner of the building. But we would at least like the opportunity to negotiate and see what comes back. And then we can come back to the board, and the board can look, you guys can all look at it and say, yep, this looks like it's gonna work for us, or say, no, we didn't get where we wanted to be, and so we'll have to think of something else.
So just note, I know it's a big decision for the city. I would like to potentially arrange, we talked about it at our last project management team, trying to get councilors out there who would like to see it. I know that we couldn't all go as a group. That might be a violation of the public meeting laws, but if individual councilors, I think you might be able to
I would
take
be
two.
happy to give 2 at a time, or 3 at a time tours, bring you out there, you can look at the building, ask questions. The owner of the building's very amenable, and so I think that's a great idea, actually, to actually see what we're talking about, because when you step in the space, your first thing is gonna be, whoa. Yes, sir.
So this location, when you guys scored all this, location, location, location,
Mhm.
and you want to negotiate to lease a piece of property in another town?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should note on that, it is an important point. It is a Hancock business owner as opposed to an Ellsworth business owner. Due to the city's tax exempt status, I'm not quite sure if it, we also own the property all the way to this building. We actually own property in Hancock as the city of Ellsworth, from the Simmons Pond. If there was a like property that was in the city, I would love to consider it. It's also the closest to the highway garage you can possibly get.
And we have other assets in Hancock. The fire training is in Hancock, the fire shooting range of the police is in Hancock. We have other things in Hancock.
Yeah, we acquired the land around Simmons Pond when the city acquired
Yes, this is
the
about
water
that.
company.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, leasing and renting buildings and stuff should be a short-term goal. We need to go look for the future. And we have land at the city garage to put in a bigger and better facility to accommodate.
I respectfully don't disagree with you at all on that. I would simply say, the reason that you look at doing leasing,
And
the same
I-
reason we did with the police station, I think,
No,
is
I-
because when you
I've
look at,
seen the building, it's very, very nice.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, for a vacant, empty, gutted building, I could spend hours in there and come back and say why we shouldn't have it. Besides the fact, it's in Hancock. Okay?
yeah, I mean, as I was.
It's gonna wrinkle a lot of people. All right? So, we should look at it and try to decide how much it's gonna cost to make a facility that would accommodate and upgrade an existing building that we already have.
I think that's an excellent point. I'm happy to,
You know what I mean? That way, we're not leasing, we're accommodating our equipment, okay? It's on city property. And it would also give these other business owners that are leasing valuable real estate to us, and some of the business owners would be more than happy to even make a structure, install a building to accommodate for a short, whatever, you know what I mean? If you negotiate with the existing landowners, the places like where the buses are already stored.
Yeah, I'm happy to look into that, the kind of what the debt service would be on accommodating the 13 school buses, 15 vans, all the other capital assets. Obviously, there'd be a time frame for that, to kind of ramp up to build what that debt service could be in comparison to a lease payment. And then the other piece on the Hancock versus Ellsworth, it's also We could, I know we're considering some procurement and changes. It's currently not part of our procurement policy to what's the word I'm looking for? To score Ellsworth businesses that provide services higher than others. It could be a future project where I think this is kind of location in terms of for the school and for us, what's in terms of transport times, what's best, not that it would be in Ellsworth specifically, and this met those thresholds, but.
I mean, specifically to this case, that's why we put it out to RFP, and nobody had anything close.
Is this the closest one of the?
No, I'm talking about as far as providing what this building provides. Like if you're scoring buildings, finding a building that gives you the same accommodations that that particular building does. Obviously, we would love to have it in Ellsworth. If somebody brought in a submission that had a building close to it, we would definitely want to consider that. But that wasn't the case for this particular piece because it's such a large building. There's just not a lot of those out there that are not being used.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the things that we have to weigh here is we currently have a fairly large amount of capital assets, and I don't know if the school wants to talk about this, and the bus sitting, somewhat undercover, not, our crews using Porta Johns, having to do call-ups. This facility would be much more appropriate to protect those capital assets. But there also is the best alternative to no agreement, and the bad no, which is our current situation, but we also want to give some guidance to those folks. I am prepping an option for our water department. If we don't reach agreement here, how can we do something that's a little more cost-effective for the city moving forward? But I'd like to get this so that we can give some certainty to those business owners that we're currently leasing with, some certainty as well. If we're going to up-lease, even if we were to go a route of a pretty substantial capital investment into the highway garage to accommodate all school buses, and that would be a long amp up. So we'd need to, in this budget cycle, also figure out a release at the current school situation. I don't know, Amy, if you want to talk about that at all.
Hello, everyone. Our lease actually runs out at the end of May, and the owners and I have been talking for several months about this. And what a new lease agreement would look like should we stay. I will say, based on seeing both buildings, the proposed building meets several goals of our strategic plan moving forward, which is something that's really important to us. I agree, if we could build a new facility, I think I would love to plan for that. But for right here and now, my lease expires May 31st. I think because of this RFP going public, now the owners are saying they'll work with us a little bit, but that has not been the case the last several years with several of the problems we have had with that facility. When we look at the cost, for us, at the current property, we are paying more than just the lease there. We do have to pay for a porta potty every month for my bus drivers and van drivers. When we have staff meetings, there is not always seating to accommodate them all. I have over 30 employees that need to meet there. We have grown. Less than half of our buses are currently undercover, which means we're paying people to come in early during the winter. And I would say that currently, right now, our assets aren't always protected, and so we've had to start spending money to keep the entry and the parking lot paved so that our buses aren't going through not great conditions driving through there. This new facility has a lot of potential. I think that long-term could result in cost savings for us because of the proximity to the highway. We've talked a lot about sharing services, repairs, mechanics. That doesn't happen right now. And since I've come on as superintendent, one of the things, for those of you that have been on council for a while, know that we've talked about is wanting more synergy between the school and the city. And this is something that, as we've toured and talked about this more and more, this 100%, I think, would do that in the long term. At first, I was very concerned about the location being in Hancock for my drivers. It is literally right on the Washington Junction Road, right off And for me, like I said, we just passed our strategic plan. And for us, retaining and recruiting and attracting school bus drivers is not something that's easy. And so selfishly for me, to put them in a space that takes care of them, shows them value, and makes them feel important and as a valued member of our school department is something that is certainly important to me as the leader of that organization. Also, part of our strategic plan is optimizing our facilities and resources. Long-term, I would love to build something and own it. I don't like that we've been leasing a bus garage for over a decade, and that we're still in that position, but that is where we are. Having 17 to 19 buses as a fleet, plus the vans, is too large to have at the highway garage. Everyone asks every year why we don't put all of our vehicles there. There is not space. I don't think people really realize how big our fleet is. Ellsworth is the largest geographic city in the state of Maine. Our buses have to cover more terrain and run more routes than any other school department in the state. And I don't think sometimes that people really understand that. And so for us, when we looked at the location comparatively speaking to our current, it's the same way, but the other direction. And we still have buses that have to run that far anyway and make a turnaround there. So for us, it would be half dozen the other based on that current location for us. Finally, strengthening culture and climate is our last of the three goals that I think this project would hit. When I talked to our 5 members of the school board and specifically the finance and facilities subcommittee of our board, very interested in me at least exploring it. Our budget is our budget. If we can't come to reasonable terms, obviously the board may vote to stay where we are. But they did vote to give Charlie and I the opportunity to at least enter into negotiations, which is what I am hopeful you will do also, so that we can at least have a conversation and further explore this. And then I would go back to my school board to talk to them about what the particulars are, and we would do the same here for you. Questions about the school side? The only other thing I would say is our lease for next year is looking to be around $73,000. We spend about $2,100 a year on porta potties, about $12,000 for this year for plowing of our current bus garage. And we just paid a $4,000 bill for the parking lot up at the bus garage a little bit ago to help with that. And we pay the utilities, the phone, electrical, we pay everything up there. So it is more than just a lease payment for us. It's actually a lot more that we're considering and taking into account for this project.
Yeah, I think that same is true for the water department. I think we have the cost of the lease, but we don't have some of the utilities, those other pieces, but also that would need to be factored in here too. So I want to do some more math, Councilor Shea as well, just getting that alternative on what a bond for the building of this magnitude might cost too.
The other consideration is the building's been vacant for a long time, and it's been unheated. And when you wake up a building and put heat to it, it's been cold for a long, long time. It's gonna have issues. Roof will leak, concrete will crack, more problems. It's, like I said, and location. And why have we been just leasing property for that long?
That's a philosophical question that needs to be asked.
Well, it's an issue that needs to be addressed. Leasing for long periods of time, if it was a business, yeah, you could write it off. But we're not a business.
Well, and that's, Pat, that's honestly why we bought the Avery Lane property that the superintendent's office and adult ed is in now, for that very reason.
Yeah.
Because we had 3 leases, and we just felt fiscally to move our school department forward, we needed to explore that. And that's why we purchased Avery Lane, which has been a huge win for our school department.
I wouldn't want to do a long-term, for the school department side, I would much rather always build, but to find a property and to do something before our lease expires in May, can't do it all at once.
And then, you know, even when you look at that, and you look at the pressures that we're experiencing with the city budget right now, and when you look at the amount of money it would take to build the facility that you're talking about, we're talking millions of dollars, and can the debt service sustain it? I don't know. And what's the time frame on it? I don't know. How long down the road before it'll be built? I don't know. We went through this with the police station. We talked about a public safety building for many years, and it didn't, we did a lot of engineering, and we did location studies, and it never came to pass. And I think that's why they finally pulled the trigger on leasing the police station. And so it's really a philosophical thing for you as a council to have to decide is how much time and capital investment are we willing to make to build this facility, and what is the likely time frame of it? Because the more you kick the can down the road, the more expensive it's going to get for us to be able to do any of that.
Any other questions from councilors for city staff or the superintendent on this issue? Councilor White?
Have you guys done a breakdown of what the city side of the cost will be, parks? A rough, like, percentage maybe of the space or square footage that you'll be taking up versus all the other departments?
Not yet, because we wanted to even get permission to negotiate, and then we'd start working that out, because we certainly need to figure that out for our budgets. Sooner rather than later.
Yeah, there is like a, you know, sure, you can do the square footage and then 17 school buses and all the vans and the back truck and all these other things, these capital assets that are, but that's going to be a lot more dialed in. And then, yeah, to your point, Tabitha, also the Parks and Rec, a small but new department, some of those assets starting to be a little bit more dedicated towards the Parks and Rec side of things, how that funding will work. And then some of the pieces here on just, we need a lot more of that. And there, you know, there's other pieces on this property that I'd want to negotiate that I wouldn't want to talk about necessarily here, but something that I could get to the point where I'd recommend this over our current arrangement or an alternative option.
And I would point out there's some uniqueness to this in that, and as she's seen, like it has the ability for the buses to drive in one end and out the other. So it literally is a pull through that you just don't see very often. It also has roll-up doors large enough to accommodate the school buses and large enough to accommodate any of the equipment that we have, that we would store in there as the public works departments. It has a working 5-ton trolley in there, which is in and of itself is pretty impressive. So there's some unique benefits that we also see when we were looking at this building too.
Any other questions from councilors? Councilor Heller?
Are you going to open this to the public comment?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I'll wait until you're done.
All right, then, yeah, if anyone from the public would like to speak on this matter, please approach the dais. And we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Thank you.
Roger Gilly, resident. You know, I'll go back on what I said before. You know, in the 90s, the garage had one side, the school department had the other side. Our biggest investment's school buses. You know, we can buy a couple vans for the cost of one bus, no problem. The buses are the main problem. You know, I can't remember how much land we have at the city garage, but it's pretty significant. I did some research, called around, and I found some garage kits to build a building that's more than significant enough to build. You know, you're talking, you know, 25,000 square feet garage delivered to the door. They got them in stock right now, folded up, ready to ship, insulation, everything. You know, about $250,000 or so. So then you add in the concrete and other things that you're gonna need. So I'm figuring we have enough property as it is that somewhere around 500K, we should be able to put up a building for this. If we have to go that route. I don't think we do. But you know, and I also wanna, you know, let everybody know that, you know, back in the 90s, when the school department, in the early 2000s, the school department was at the garage, we had more highway crew. You know, and we had a bunch of bus drivers. You know, I understand it's grown, but if the highway crew's grown that quick in 10 years or so, you know, we should be seeing more done within the city. If we have more tools to work with, you know, and they're not using the same thing to do 10 different jobs. So I'd like to think that worst case scenario, we build a building on our own property. Like I said, the buildings are all sitting in packages right now, ready to ship. The building and the installation, then we just have to find somebody to put them together. I watched some videos on them. They're not that difficult. Down in Lemoyne, all winter long, as I've been out plowing, I've watched a crew of 3 guys build, I don't know, probably a 40 by 80 building. And they've only worked, you know, a day or 2 a week, and they've made a great impact on that building. There's a building that was just built in Eastbrook, roughly about the same size, close to it. Pretty much within a week, that building was standing closed in. So I really think that, you know, a little more thought needs to come in this, because I think right now, as we pick this one building and say that it meets our requirements, I think that before it all went out to everybody to, you know, give us a proposal, I think they were all looked at first, and then we chose this one and decided what we wanted around this building, which didn't give a fair shake to anybody involved. And I think before we go to Hancock, we really give the residents of Ellsworth, you know, something within the city. And we need to keep our money local, not paying another town to house any more of our stuff than we need to. We have the land. That's it.
Thank you, Robert. Any further public comments on this matter?
Ralph Jordan, resident of Ellsworth, Bayside Road. A couple of points. First of all, Mike, we don't know who pulled the trigger on the police station because it was kept so private.
Oh, yeah, no,
Okay.
I'm not questioning that.
So I assume this
I'm sorry, I
building-
didn't hear that. Could you say that again?
I was clarifying with Mike, because he mentioned the police station, when we decided to pull the trigger on the police station. Nobody knows when we decided to pull the trigger on the police station or how that even happened. It was kept so quiet. So this building is in Hancock, and I assume they pay Hancock taxes, or taxes to the city of Hancock. The place we park our buses at this point pay taxes to the city of Ellsworth. The mall pays taxes to the city of Ellsworth. And we should be loyal to the people of Ellsworth. We should be giving them first option. It's as simple as that. They pay taxes here, they should have first option on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Casey Hardwick, city resident. I am in full support of at least a short-term lease for the building in Hancock. I completely agree that we should be looking for building our own building. We should have done that a long time ago, but the fact of the matter is, it wasn't done. We have leases that are up. If the combined lease on one property is equal to or slightly above for more benefit than what we are currently paying in the multiple locations, I see it as a win for the city. We're either going to stay in Ellsworth, be status quo, but lose on the fact that our equipment isn't protected. But in the meantime, while we're trying to look and see where we could build a building, how fast we can do it. So I fully support your decision to actually investigate the cost for leasing that property in Hancock.
Thank you. Any further public comment on this matter?
Good evening, Gordon Workman, resident of Ellsworth. Tax money should stay in Ellsworth. Shouldn't be going to Waltham, shouldn't be going to Hancock. Simple as that. Our tax money, our money, we give to the city for operation, not for another entity to receive it. One thing is, this property out here is gonna be a 10-year lease, I do believe, and there's maintenance cost to the buildings, he just walks away and the city of Ellsworth has to maintain it. That's a big high cost. We have to do that out on Bucksboro Road. Has anyone gone to the present owners of that property and asked if you can accommodate us if we want to go bigger? Has anyone? I'd say no.
It's just public comment, we're not.
Well, I'd like to have answers, because the public comment, you should have answers. The other thing is, you know, to build a building that size, like Roger Gilly was saying, the cost for a steel building to be put up is a lot less than $1,700,000 and something thousand for 10 years. There's no reason to have a 10-year lease on a building that just goes down the drain that we have to maintain. And we maintain it to keep up, and then they get to turn around and sell it, just like the police station. That was the dumbest idea that I ever heard of, was that police station. Same thing as this. It's the dumbest idea I've heard, of using our tax dollar for outside places. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jared, resident. I want to express my concern about the decision to let the city manager go into discussions about this 10-year lease, which could go $1,780,000 plus with CAMs. Really need to look at that as a city. We need to spend the time and see what we can do with that money. I'm pretty sure if we broke it down, we could have a pretty nice facility. Maybe a short-term lease to patch us through is an option, but I don't know if a 10-year with 2 5-year extensions is the option to best fit the citizens, the school, the water department, and the city of Ellsworth. I would like to point out that there was other bids that were put in on this RPF. Local, probably lower square price, but there was only one person out of that select committee that actually looked at this location. My concern about this merit-based scoring system is that it was applied fairly without bias. You're choosing a building with inadequate heat. I wonder if the CAMs have a cap, and who's flipping the cost for this HVAC unit. Well, I'm not upset about how the bid panned out. I am frustrated with the process of how it went through. During the RPF cycle, there was a Q&A. Emails were sent during the allotted timeline. Email was sent back. Give Mike a call. I'm under the bus. I understand family emergency, sicknesses, that sort of deal. Questions during that Q&A never got answered. Could more of allotted space been applied with the design or the layout that they were looking for? Possibly, but we'll never know. So I'd really like to think that the council will take some time, think of the hard numbers, 1.7 million, and that's on 10 years. So if we go 20, we're looking at $3.4 million. Think of what you could build for the future of Ellsworth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to speak on this matter? Thank you. Councilors, Councilor Howland?
I'd like to thank the early people, whether they were city councilors or city selectmen back in 1934. They had foresight and they were risk takers. And they stepped out and made a commitment to build this building for the city of Ellsworth. That had to be a really risky move. The town had just burned down, and they put their heads together. I don't know if they were 3 selectmen, if they were 7 councilors, I don't know, but somebody put their head together. And they decided to build this building. And we have occupied it for 90 years. Sure, there's been some renovations. They had some foresight. They knew that the city of Ellsworth was not going to move out of the city of Ellsworth. They had the foresight to know that the city of Ellsworth was going to have to put roots in the city of Ellsworth. It's no secret that I am against this lease. Everybody that knows my background knows that I was against the city police lease. When the school department came forward and wanted to buy the Avery Lane superintendent's property, they were leasing property at Camden National. I jumped at that chance to support that because I didn't think the Ellsworth school system would ever move out of Ellsworth, and I thought putting roots down is probably a good plan. So here we are talking about leasing property or renting property. And we're going to have build-out costs, I'm certain, whether you talk your potential landlord into doing it and charging you, or whether we do it like we did with the police station. Either way, Mr. and Mrs. Ellsworth is going to pay the bill. There's going to be carrying costs either way. Now, I don't know why the physical numbers aren't public knowledge, but I'm hearing that they're not public knowledge. Is that fair to say, or am I allowed to give a payment number?
No, we're still in competitive, I don't know the numbers, Steve.
I mean, you can ask, yeah, you can ask our attorney, but I've advised on that.
It's in this packet.
Yeah, the council is aware, and that's why some of the information from the community I can't respond to either, because I haven't released term agreements, and there isn't, in fact. I don't mean to contradict.
I'm asking, can I present this number to the people paying the bill, or can I not?
I'd ask our attorney. I would say no. Why don't you talk to him?
Mr. James?
I mean, there's a number in the council packet.
Please, Attorney Pease.
Tim Pease, City Attorney. There's a couple of things going on here. I'd say, first of all, in the Freedom of Access Act, when it comes to negotiating property purchases and leases and so forth, that's a proper item for executive session. And the reason is you don't want to compromise the negotiating position of the municipality. So, that's kind of fundamental to what you're trying to do, is to make sure you put yourself in the best position possible. With this particular RFP, there's room and opportunity to negotiate the specific terms. So the question, I think, for the council tonight is whether you want to allow the city manager to go forward and negotiate the best terms that he can negotiate and bring them forward for the council to consider. Or whether you think it's not even worth the time for him to do that. I would say that my concern that the city manager asked me about a few days ago is, what if particular city councilors are involved in looking at the numbers now? I'm very concerned about that, because if you're ultimately the decision maker in terms of entering a lease or not, and when you're in a competitive environment like you are right now, if you pick one over the others, the first thing they're gonna do is complain about the process. We're hearing it tonight already. We talked about the process when it comes to elections and so forth. When it comes to spending money and you're picking winners, or a winner, and somebody's losing, they're likely to file a complaint about that. We see that a lot. So I'm very concerned about any individual council members being involved or looking at the numbers, because I think that puts the city at risk. And then in terms of letting people know what the numbers are, I think that hurts the city's negotiating position. I don't know that it's a legal risk, but that's just the reality of it that I think you need to consider.
So the answer to my question is, no one is comfortable with me telling the truth to the city people that are paying the bill? Is that what I'm hearing? Because I'll just continue without doing it. That's all I'm trying to figure out.
But if I may comment, Steve, no one's trying to hide the truth. We're trying to maintain our best negotiating
Okay,
position.
so I won't give you the payment number. That's what I wanted to know.
I mean, if you want to compromise the city's negotiating position and potentially cost us more money, go right ahead.
I'll do that, no problem.
Yeah, and
If you tell me I can do that, I will.
No,
I
you
should also
I mean,
note-
Steve, it's your choice. You're an adult, but I'm just saying, you just heard from our
Right.
city attorney and myself, the chair, and the city manager, that to do so would put the city at a disadvantage and cost us more money.
But you just told me that I could do it if I wanted to.
I can't, you can, Steve, I can't control you to do anything, Steve. We're asking you not to do it. We're
Okay.
asking you to fulfill your responsibilities as a counselor and your fiduciary duties to the city.
We were given this information, I don't know
Yeah, we
why.
get given a lot of information we're not supposed to share with
All
the
right.
public because it's part of executive session, Steve. That's how this works.
This is not an executive.
I should just also note here that, clarify.
I won't disclose it. Let me just finish.
No, I'm not looking to disclose. I just, there was some sort of, it's a decided on, it's for this many years, it's at this cost. None of that is accurate. I'm not there yet. I've got a budget. I'm probably deeper than anybody into this budget cycle. I've gone through a full round of department heads. We have current lease payments that will either need to be met or a new arrangement will have to be made. And there's a very good chance that I might say, hey, this is not going to be financially feasible. Or on the converse side of that, depending on how negotiations and discussion has gone here, I might say, hey, this is very financially reasonable, and here's the capital cost of our current depreciating assets. Here is what it would cost to fabricate a building over X amount of time, and this is what it would cost the city. While the location of Hancock is not allowable, if Mike and the scoring committee would say, hey, we want to do this one because it's in Ellsworth, not Hancock, I'd have to say, that's not a scoring criteria, that's in our procurement policy. That might be something we need to look at as a council. All this is authorizing is for me to, as the school board has done previously, to continue the discussion. And a lot of this conversation has actually been excellent, to help me frame that negotiation and coming to terms, incorporating this feedback, or not, or coming back to the council and saying, hey, I couldn't incorporate that feedback. It happens. It happens quite often if you can't come to negotiating terms. But to Councilor Lyons' point, if we start going down this, let's release this information now, that could jeopardize the position. Also, as the attorney said, it could jeopardize the integrity of the scoring review process. So I'd leave that to councilors' decisions.
If I may continue, I would simply say this, that I took the information that was given and I entered it into an amortization schedule. Okay? The proposed cost monthly of the highest option of the three, if the city could build a $2.8 million property at a 5% interest rate over 30 years. I think the people that voted to build this building made a very good decision. I think we're faced with a crisis that doesn't exist. All school buses were made to work outdoors. Sure, would it be nice to be in a nice building? Sure, that's fine. I'd love to see that. But they were made to drive outdoors. The vans were made to drive outdoors. Would it be nice to have them all in a nice building? Yes, certainly. But we need to own the building in Ellsworth. not rent a building outside of Ellsworth, and not rent a building even in Ellsworth. We're going to be homeless in 10 years. What are we thinking here? Every 10 years, you're going to revisit this? You got to bite the bullet, like the people that built this building, that sat on this council. That had to be a heck of a decision. I understand it was $1.3 million to build this. I don't know if that's true or not true. But that was a heck of a decision after the town burned. But it was a long-term decision that's made sense for 90 years. Renting buildings, especially outside of Ellsworth, makes 0 sense in the long term. It's hitting the easy button to be comfortable today, to be painful tomorrow. Thank you.
I'd love to work with you more, Steve, on the amortization schedule. I think that's a great point. Councilor Shea, I think you made it as well. It's an important data point I think we'll want to have on timelines and cost comparisons as an alternative. That's an excellent point.
Councilor Shea?
Given all the work that you have to do and your staff do, you know, I think we better focus on something for a long term, and we ought to stay where we're at. So I'd like to make a motion not to authorize the city manager to negotiate.
I'll
for any
second that.
property in the city, in any other properties outside of the city of Ellsworth.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion from councilors on that motion and second? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? The motion that's been suggested is just to authorize the negotiation. I mean, they will come back to us with a proposal, and we can decide whether or not to proceed with the lease. I think it's been, I hear everyone's point regarding the, I want to build for the long term. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't know about the 10 years versus, whatever. Again, we have limited information because we're early on in this process. I just want to note that despite any insinuations, the city's followed all proper procedures and has done nothing other than what it's supposed to do in this process. So any insinuations otherwise are false. But with that, I think why don't we just see what happens and make a motion to allow them to negotiate? And if they come back and we don't like it, that's great. And I'm all for, if we want to go out to bond and build a brand-new facility in Maine and get, in Ellsworth and get it done, I think that's a great idea. No one's here fighting you guys about that. We're all for it. So we can, work together, or we can, grandstand and play these games. So,
Just so you know, I'm not grandstanding. I just would prefer that we think to the future. Leasing, renting, those are short terms. You need to take care of our infrastructure, and that's what that building and any of the buildings we own, we need to take and, move forward.
I agree 100% with you, Pat. I think the
Yeah.
rest of the council
I-
does. And I think
you know.
I'd like to move, on that point, though, I'd like to move to make a motion, if anyone would like to make a motion on the suggested motion. Councilor N. Smith?
Were you going to?
No, I was just, I
I
was,
think we've been at this for a while. I think we need to
I was
move
getting
forward.
confused.
Yeah.
Move to authorize the city manager to negotiate lease terms with the developer owner of the Jordan property for the leasing of the building, based on the city's evaluation and scoring of proposals through the building lease RFP, which identified the Jordan property as the highest rated option, and to return to the city council with a proposed lease agreement for review and approval before execution.
Second.
Second. Further discussion?
I just want to say that I'm in agreement with Steve and Pat and yourself, that I want the city to look at a more long-term permanent solution for this, and I'm hoping that's in the capital improvement plan already. If not, hopefully it ends up there, because I am in total agreement. hate seeing it go outside of Ellsworth, and we have so much land and that right there at that highway to garage to do something that can be a facility that the school and the highway and all of Public Works can share. I think that would be ideal, so please look into that.
And
I have a question. Within the RFP, is the term of the lease outlined, or is that part of the negotiation, whether it's 2 or 3 years to be able to move to building a building?
Yeah.
And not the 10 years that somehow is being talked
Yeah,
about?
I'm worried that people took something that I said and either didn't hear it right or I miscommunicated.
Now would be a time
We
to
have been
clarify.
in our current
Okay.
lease for 10-plus years.
Okay.
It was not a 10-year lease agreement. It was a 3-year lease agreement that was renewed over time, and we haven't negotiated any future lease in our current property or with this new thing. Everything's been kind of put on pause until we knew the wishes of the council and the school board. So I don't know where the whole 10-year lease comments came from. I think it's because I said we've been paying lease for a decade.
Okay.
And so, to be clear, it was not a 10-year lease. It was multi-years that was renewed over time that has resulted in it being a 10-plus year payment of leases.
Councilor Howland?
Does that help?
It does, and I would like to ask if every 3 years, when you renegotiated, did it go up?
Yeah, I don't know prior to me. In my term as superintendent, yes, it has.
Thank you.
Yes, and it will again next year. Yes.
Okay, so we have
So-
clarified that issue.
And I think, no, you're set, thank you. Thank you, that was very helpful. Like, where did 10 years come from? There seems to be consensus around the horseshoe here on a longer-term solution, but the motion currently is to fill a gap that we've got. I think
Just to talk
maintaining.
about filling a gap that we've got. It's not even.
That's
approved.
true, that's true,
It's
to
just- we're
explore
just
the
trying to
option to do
negotiate.
this. But it is moving forward to explore that option. Charlie said he's gonna take all this into consideration, what you're hearing about.
Yeah, absolutely.
The timing for the
The
lease,
longer
as
term,
well
we can
as
figure it out.
saving taxpayer dollars for the
Because also
residents
the
and
best
businesses
alternative to
here.
no agreement is our current, but it is not a 22,000 foot facility that we materializes, or it is our current agreements, which we've would potentially consider. There's also some other alternatives that I'm considering as part of this budget process, and even this one, I've got to figure out if this is the right price point to accommodate a lot of the things the school talked about today. Really hard to recruit bus drivers, big issue in Maine. In their current facility, that is not ideal for employment conditions. So that'll have to be taken into account. The depreciation of the assets, I know school buses are meant to be outside, but as anybody knows who keeps a vehicle outside in the state of Maine, driving it, having it indoors and covered and washed more regularly and having those pieces and all our other capital assets for a long time, preferable to have indoors. So there's a benefit to that. Would that cost outweigh that benefit? Some of the numbers that are here are really general on leases. We talked about, like, the school actually has a lot more costs on their current areas that weren't factored in here. Same thing with the city side. So it'll be a lot of to your point, Councilor Shea. There's one piece of me that always needs, nobody's making money off this deal. I'm trying to accommodate
No,
this,
I'm not.
the city, the school, the city, others. There seems to be a lot of aspersions as to why we're moving forward. This is about providing an option that could be considered to be the best for the city or not. And I think it's a great point. A lot of times we'll push something forward, the conversation gets really hot, and it's like, gosh, we're just trying to provide options and I really appreciated your comments, Councilor. I think those are really on point to some of the key issues here. So we can get those options and then end quickly, because we have leases that are expiring. So how can we get you that information and then move in a different direction, or keep our kind of status quo and move forward with what we got? Because our business, they've been great to work with across the board here. They're really great Ellsworth business owners, and we'll figure this one out. We always do.
Great. I'm going to move to vote. All those in favor? Opposed? You only get one.
I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to raise my hand.
All right, thank you. But there'll be plenty of opportunity to discuss this further when the city manager comes back afterwards. Thank you. Council agenda item, and thank you for the superintendent and school board for coming, and very helpful. Agenda item number 19, council order number 022606, public hearing and action on revising the user rates for the Ellsworth Water Department. Amanda Ray. Oh, and others. Come on up.
Nick Henry, rate consultant.
Oh,
So water department, rate increase, just a quick summary, 2 steps. We're spreading it out July 1st, 2026, July 1st, 2027, looking to generate 14% more revenue for the water department. Metered customer rates are going to go up 5% July 1st of 26, 2% July 1st of 27, and then the public fire protection we talked about the last time I was here is also increasing. With any matter like this, with the Public Utilities Commission, we need to notify customers of their rights with the customer letter, but also at the public hearing, which is now. So what I'm going to do is just go notify customers of their rights, so that's documented for the Public Utilities Commission, and then from there, we would just be at customer comments at that portion, or councilor comments. So according to 35-A MRS section 6104, customers have the right to request additional information regarding present or proposed rates from the department or the city, the right to an open and fair hearing, which is tonight, and the right to assistance from the public advocate, if they would like. Customers have the right to petition the PUC to suspend these rates if on or before March 15th, 2026, 15% of the customers file a petition with the city and the Public Utilities Commission to essentially demand review of the rate increase. And the department, we have petitions available that customers can take and try for generating signatures that meet all the requirements of the petition process. So that is a very quick, high-level summary of customer rights. And so we did a quick summary of the rate increase. And so at this point, I would say it would be customer comment section of the public hearing.
Great. Well, I'll open the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this matter, please approach the dais. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Is there anything else on your side as far as state compliance that you need to make sure we check all the boxes?
On my end, we're all set. I don't know if you have internal procedure that requires one final thing.
We're going to vote.
Okay,
Yeah,
so then
yeah.
On my end, we're all set.
Great. Thank you very much for all your work. Manager Pierce?
Yeah, just maybe a little background. I believe it was this council that got Nick's first presentation.
Yes.
Were you all
Yeah.
here for the first
Well,
one?
I
Okay.
think maybe not the newest. Were you here?
Yeah.
No,
You
we
guys
were
were
here.
We were
We're-
here.
Yeah,
Okay, very good.
yeah,
You guys
just,
been here long enough
just
now.
want to thank you very much. I had a few previous conversations that would make your head spin. This is a very complicated topic. It seems straightforward. We had, one of the reasons that we were looking to increase water rates is not at the current issue, but we're doing a $20 million plus brand new water treatment plant, best in class. That's our current one is currently at capacity. It layers together a pretty significant amount of federal funding, grants. Some of them are grants outright from Northern Borders Commission. Some of them are very low interest loans. So there's going to be a new debt service that falls upon the water department once we actualize this plant. So instead of having the water customers and the city, who's the biggest customer here, get an enormous increase. Actually, Jack's may be bigger than the city, but we want to stagger it ahead, start planning ahead. This also does create complications for our budget because when you do a rate increase above, I think, the 1.5% level, and you want to do a rate case, it triggers that the city has to automatically come up to, I think, a 30% level. So in some ways, like, the customer who's going to have to pay the most in the near term is the city, which is all of the taxpayers, as separate from the ratepayers to get back to that 30%, because in some ways growth kind of penalizes the city on that 5%. We've had a lot of growth in new water customers. We talked about that earlier and how great that is for the city, but it comes with costs. One is the public fire protection increase. So next year, or this current fiscal year, I'm gonna have to find, it's 50,000 at 11% increase, and then the year after that, it's 95,000, I think at 18%. And then it's about 5% for the customers across the board. So this really just, it's helping us pre-plan for that debt service coming on. So there's a little bit more consistency with the customers. And when that facility comes online, hopefully we'll have a lot of new growth. I know Amanda and our consultants on this project are really, they've been trying to do that. They have these big maps, and you just see hundreds of new housing units and that Hilton Home to Suites and all this growth. Like this plant's coming online at the first time, so hopefully we can also continue to have pretty reasonable water rates with all this new growth too, even with these price increases.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, would anyone like to advance a motion? Councilor Shea.
Make a motion to approve the water department's water rate increase per attached. The rate case be filing effective July 1st, 2026 and July 2027.
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 20. Council order number 022607. Nope, what'd I do? I broke it. Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
How dare you, Sarah? Okay. Council order number 022607, public hearing, potential action on the request of the Economic Development Director for the creation of a new TIF, tax increment financing, or TIF districts. I believe we have our Economic Development Director here this evening.
Good evening. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Twyla Fisher, Economic Development Director. Sarah, please help me. Maybe because I didn't. Oh, there we go. And then we're just screen right. Well, not that. Okay. Turn it to. Oh. All right, thank you. And now we get to talk about something really fun, TIFs. I want to thank our TIF consultant, Reagan, who's online, joining us and waiting very patiently online. And she'll be able to answer some questions as well. But wanted to take a moment and just bring before you something that came about actually as after we met with Reagan in January. She came in and spoke to some staff here with the city, and we realized through that conversation that there's a state law that allows TIF applicants to go back 2 years and capture from that time on. So for us, it would be in '24. From that time on, the original assessed value of all the properties in the proposed TIF districts up to now 2026. And I think we were like, wait, what? There's been a lot of growth in Ellsworth. That makes sense to try to do now to capture 24 and 25 and not wait a whole other year and miss out on all the growth in 24. So we kind of, that's what's kind of accelerated this a little bit, and been talking more to our TIF consultant and internally and looking at where it might make the most sense to capture the growth. We are presenting and asking council, again, this is an information session. Next month would be a vote to allow us to submit the applications to DECD, but for now, just to kind of fill you in on where we're at. So this would be connecting two corridors, the High Street corridor, where a lot of growth is happening and will continue to happen, and Main Street, and then other routes that line up with the Village Partnership Initiative focus areas. I'll show you in just a minute. So again, we've seen this.
Excuse me, Twyla,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Can you put that to like 120% or 125? I've cleaned my glasses and I still can't see. Thank you.
Yep, I think it's because I saved it as a PDF and it's not a PowerPoint. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you. I can read it now.
Thank you.
So this is similar to what we've seen in other places when we look at TIF diagrams, and I just broke it down into something that for me made a lot more sense. So let's just say that somebody buys a plot of land, and the taxes they owe on it are $1,000, real simple figures, right? So that $1,000 goes to the city, and let's say that that's during that time, before anything's built on it, the city establishes a 30-year TIF district, which freezes that assessed base value where it was. So it freezes that $1,000, okay, because now there's a TIF district. And then after that, somebody builds a home on it, and all of a sudden it's worth, the taxes are $10,000, not $1,000. So what happens because it's in a TIF district, then how does that work? I think this is sometimes where the confusion comes in with TIF districts. So let's go back to that. Because it's in a TIF district, the original $1,000 where that was frozen when the TIF district was established still goes to the city's general fund. That was frozen at the time that the TIF district was established. The $9,000 increment goes into approved TIF investments in the district. And that's why we call it capturing revenue after the time that the original assessment was frozen. Does that make more sense?
Yes.
But then you multiply that by lots of dollars, and you can see how there's still money coming into the general fund, but there is also the captured portion that's going into the TIF investments in the district. So where this is really, if you take nothing else away from tonight, this is so important. What happens though is that every year when the state assesses the value of Ellsworth, it sees only, to use this example again, it's not looking at the 10,000 that it went up, it's only looking at where it was frozen at 1,000. So when it looks at how much of a valuation we're at now and how much to give to Ellsworth towards our schools and the profit sharing of that, we're not getting hurt for our growth. And in the same regard, when we are assessed for what we owe to the county in taxes, it's looking at 1,000. So we're not paying excessive taxes to the county even though we're growing. And that's really the beauty of TIF. It's just the biggest bang for the buck because we're not losing any money. It's actually more money coming into the city, more money coming into our schools. And if we were not to have TIF shelter any of that, we would be losing, I think, this year, and this was what Reagan shared with me after working with Larry, our tax assessor, I think it would be 58 cents to the dollar that we would not be able to hold on to because of how it would affect our valuation. So by having some things sheltered, some of the property sheltered and the growth sheltered, we're actually bringing and keeping more money in the city. And just a quick note, this was Charlie's idea, and Amy Kenny, our communications director, set up a page, a TIF districts page now on our website, so you can go and find more information there. We do know that we have existing TIF districts, and TIF is not new to Ellsworth. It was established decades ago by our well-respected city leadership, and it still works very well for us. And very, very important as well, TIF is developed and implemented under your guidance. So you don't, this doesn't just slip by council at any time. This is something that council oversees and helps to develop and implements and approves. And just, we all have heard this before, but some important things again to mention. TIF addresses workforce and senior housing concerns in Ellsworth. You can see examples here. TIF considers what's important to the community. TIF contributes to local infrastructure and small business projects. TIF attracts new investment. And this was a slide, again, from our TIF consultant where she showed when she was here back in November, again, how at the end, bottom here, you see how the dollar's slashed in half. If you're not capturing it, the city becomes, when new taxable value is added into state funding formulas, there are negative shifts, and the municipality does not realize all of the gain from the new taxes, and some of it is reduced. So just to put this again in real numbers, in the city's 2026 state valuation is $1.8 billion. These are rounded numbers. Of that, $75 million is being sheltered through our existing tax districts. But according to tax shifts this year, without TIFs, the city would be set to lose again 58 cents on every dollar. The $1 million available to our economic development, from our economic development TIF, so the $1.5 million that was available to go out into infrastructure and our projects planned, if we follow this tax shift, we would only have 480,000 of that 1.5 million, and 662,000 would be lost to make up for the decrease in state funding and increase in the county taxes owed. So hopefully you're starting to see how this can really work in our favor to have TIF districts. So on to the two proposed new TIF districts. What you're looking at here is the City of Ellsworth urban core map. I know it's probably hard to see from there, but the kind of yellow shaded part is the urban core as it exists now. And both districts are embedded in that urban core, the ones we're proposing. So the first one is what we're calling the Central Corridor TIF, and I've just, it follows High Street and then down East Highway. And I just circled the areas that we're really trying to capture that are not in our current TIFs. Of course, the new courthouse area is in there. Also, where the new hotel is going in, the Dysarts, what's down here? And the two tractor dealerships, I believe, and some other investment around there. And then the second one is what we're calling the Downtown Corridor TIF, and it has this much longer name, but just to keep it shorter. And again, this really came about from looking at the Village Partnership Initiative focus area, and that references Gateway North, Gateway West, Gateway East, the downtown, and the waterfront, or Water Street. And then we also looked at the Heart of Ellsworth's map that they have for Main Street designation and their focus area. And then again, putting the two together, we kind of got this area. You don't see both sides of the street on this map, but you get the idea of how this is the corridor running through the downtown. So just in a very preliminary way, I just wanted to show you our existing TIF districts are here in green. And then what we're doing, and I think it does it very beautifully, is these two new proposed ones connect those districts. So first you'll see the blue up in here. So these are the two combined that connect the Beckwith Hill one primarily. So this would be the courthouse and the Wardwell properties. So that's really trying to capture any investment in the future, including housing, preferably workforce housing that would go in there. But it does cover all of this corridor of High Street. And then you can see again Main Street and Water Street, State Street, all the way up to Christian Ridge Road, which is where the Bucksport piece of Beckwith Hill TIF starts. So it connects everything really nicely and captures a lot of growth in that area. Sometimes people ask, and rightly so, what can TIF fund? So this is just a little blurb off of the state map that for our TIFs, and the eligible public costs are publicly owned infrastructure with public rights-of-way. It can do transit stations, public beautification, public parking structures, land building acquisition, interest costs on public financing obligations, site preparation, demolition. You can read all of these, and I can provide these to you. But TIF and administration costs are in there, and then some private costs for rehab of existing buildings, new construction of private buildings, demolition, site prep, cleanup of privately owned land. And I want to mention, too, that park construction, doesn't say it here, but park maintenance can often go in that as well, building new trails and things like that. And again, just of note, TIFs do not increase taxes. TIFs do not give tax breaks to developers. TIF dollars can only be used for their designated purposes under council guidance. TIFs can be layered with other tax incentive areas like opportunity zones, and we do have several here in the city of Ellsworth. So I'll finish with this. Does anyone remember what this tagline comes from? It's a credit card. What is it?
Can't see it.
It says, "Don't live life without it."
Discover.
It is American Express. It's American Express. So American Express coined this nice little tagline, "Don't live life without it." Then they started expanding their campaign, and they said, "Don't dream bigger without it." And it just kind of reminded me of TIF. Any questions?
You don't also work for American Express.
I don't. I don't even have an American Express card, I promise. So, yeah.
You know, even just, thank you, Twyla. Twyla kind of picked this up. It was a TIF+++ in the priority matrix. It's mentioned in our comp plan about better utilization of these types of pieces. And I think one other thing that was really well done 10, 15 years ago, and then just kind of, if you read the original TIFs, which I've done, you can see every few years they're amending it for current economic development activities. Some of the things they did then really helped us now, like the Beachland Road being done. And, you know, that, as Twyla mentioned, like they could have made a decision to spend, I think it's like 200,000+ in the debt service that came off of that. We could have spent 300,000+ in general city funds on that. But fortunately, Michelle, Tammy, Mickey, the economic development director and former Chamber of Commerce head, had the foresight to start setting up these districts that we could spend infrastructure-related projects using these types of funds, as I mentioned earlier at the municipal conference, seeing the cities and towns that have done this process right. It allows them to kind of manage growth. I think we mentioned in the memo, we're in this sort of vicious cycle of growth right now. 36% population increase since 2000, 26% higher than the main average, a $700 million increase in valuation. Some of that was just sales growth in terms of waterfront properties. A lot of it's stuff like this $20 million hotel and those types of assets. But when you don't use TIF to capture some of that increase, so you can go towards infrastructure, so you can go towards housing initiatives. I think you can see it all over Maine. There's plenty of places that are attacking housing pretty hard. They're all using TIF. This is a really key tool that can help us, and the infrastructure pieces. We're already spending money that's general taxpayer funds that could be TIFable. If we would have had more foresight to do this, that 58 cents on the dollar, across the board, we're looking at that in the current budget cycle based on that Beachland. Like, what are we currently doing where we're not using TIF-eligible funds for TIF-eligible expenses? You think about that, the 1-point-some million we just did in new town roads. A lot of that probably could have been a TIF-eligible expense if we would have done this. And then there's also, the workshop will get deeper into this. I know we're going to hopefully have talking to Hart Ellsworth and the Chamber and other business leaders. Like, want to talk a lot more about these pieces, what it could be eligible for, that village partnership initiative for the downtown. If we're going to, if we're going to move forward in that project and potentially tens of millions of dollars, a once in a generation investment in the downtown requires a 10% match. If it's a $30 million investment in the downtown, we're going to need that $3 million in city match. This is the type of thing that we could start establishing new districts, start putting that away towards that match, and then move forward. We could also say no to, potentially $27 million in the state, or use general taxpayer dollars at a 50 cents on the dollar price point. I don't think that would be the way to go, but these are the types of things. And also there is the baseline scenario. I wish we would have kind of had the, Twyla would have been here 6 months beforehand and could have fast-tracked this. And then we could have talked about this as part of this budget process for how we can align these funds to current needs. But we move forward with these new districts. You can also do it as a zero capture, which would essentially be no difference for this fiscal year, which we may need to be in initially. It just gives us the option in the future to capitalize on the two huge years of growth, and gives that option in the future. We also want to add a much more robust TIF policy, and maybe even a TIF committee on how all that funding is spent. I know this goes one way or the other, but Portland has an excellent one, and on how the report outs are done every year. Again, that would be above the state's requirements, but I'd like to get more to that level where we're doing a TIF committee or TIF funds for each year. This isn't just about this year. This is about planning the next decade of growth in this city, and how we want to save for it properly too.
Great. We can have those documents for March because I would like to submit them with if it's approved, to submit them with the application. Just shows good accountability and a good path forward on our end.
And just to back up the timeline a little bit, I think it was the previous city council, early spring, approved moving forward with this project to hire a TIF consultant. That was before Twyla was even here. We didn't get any bids at the first price point. We came back with Twyla, adjusted that, I'd say the best. Well, we got really lucky. Reagan's been incredible. She came in, I think, right before this new council got seated and did a big presentation on this. Even some of the folks that usually are pretty negative in these meetings from our public had some good things to say about that presentation. So you can also find that on YouTube. It's probably on the TIF page.
It is.
The new web page. So we had some great council dialogue. We're going to discuss more in addition tonight at the workshop. And then we'll bring it back up at the next city council meeting. So that's where we're at. It's a ton of work, but.
Great. Do we have any questions for staff? Councilor Helen, Councilor
So-
Smith?
Thank you. To be clear, there's no action needed tonight. This is informational. I've gone to the webpage that you suggested. It's, it looks like a great start. Will that whole PowerPoint go up on there? I don't see it yet, but would love to see it. I suggest you have T-shirts made with that last slide. I will proudly wear one.
I'm gonna advise you.
around town.
I'm gonna advise you don't, so we don't get sued by American Express.
No, not that one. The one with all of the things about we get to invest money and we get to keep our state money coming in and our county taxes don't go up. Those bullets.
Oh, I see what you mean, yes.
Yes, no, the bullet ones were the ones. Sorry, not nearly as cool as that slide, but it's got the information that we need, so. I just wanted to clarify, no action tonight, but this has been really helpful in the progression of, over the past year, the information that we've had.
Great. Councilor Halloran?
Oh, and there is, the PowerPoint is online. I take it back, I found it.
Oh, Reagan is, yes, not
I
this one.
have a
Oh, okay.
couple of questions for you, and this is some background of Ellsworth's TIF from back to 2002. And I've always been against TIF. I think that maybe I'm wrong, but I've always looked at it as a bureaucratic slush fund. And to clarify that, could you go back to that $1,000 property
Yes.
that you presented in the beginning?
Mhm.
I want to ask a question about that, and then I wondered if you could just talk about credit enhancement agreements.
Yeah.
So this $1,000 piece of property that was the annual taxes, and then the guy builds the new house.
Mhm.
Okay, and now there's $10,000 in taxes, so $1,000 goes into the general fund. The $9,000 goes into the TIF fund,
Mhm.
correct? Okay, so I guess my question, and I don't expect you to answer that, but that $9,000 is, and correct me if I'm wrong, withheld from the budget process. It's not in our budget now, so Mr. and Mrs. Ellsworth are only collecting $1,000, not $10,000. And this TIF sets aside this money for special projects. Is that a fair analysis?
Yes and no. It does set it aside for special projects according to how the TIF was submitted to the state. And again, this is something council approves as far as what's in there. But it does appear in our budget book. It is in the budget.
Right, but it's not part of the general fund any longer. That $9,000 is set aside out of the general fund.
It is designated for economic development activities within the TIF district.
Okay.
And in the case of Beckwith Hill, there were some portions of it that were covered because it was made necessary by the creation of the district. And then some money could go to citywide community purposes.
So the credit enhancement piece of that, could you speak to that a little bit? That when you've got this $9,000 pot, and then a developer comes in and needs a credit enhancement agreement, can you explain some of that to the public?
I think that's what we're developing as we move into this new TIF. There would be an application process. Again, it would have to be approved by council. The terms of the developer would be outlined there. We could negotiate it, we could refuse it, we could say yes. We could say if they want 10 years, we could say 5. A lot of that is open to council to push back or say this makes sense or doesn't. But yes, to my knowledge, we've never had a full application process before. When the other TIFs were created, it was with developer, with CEAs already in place, and so this would be new. But it would allow developers to come to us and make a proposal.
And I'd say just to your point, Steve, yeah, it's an important one. Like, this doesn't authorize, okay, now city staff is just handing out credit enhancement agreements in these designated zones and move forward and let's do this infrastructure here. Let's do it. Still goes through the budget process. I think as part of this new application process too, we're going to submit like a new kind of designated committee, annual reports on the TIF districts, something similar to what Portland has put together. Could be a member of the council, some members of the business community, would make it more part of the regular budgeting process. And then there's the other pieces like, so that could go to new credit enhancement agreements, like if we want to really invest in housing and say, hey, if you're going to build a $30 million housing complex, we could say, well, we want market rate and we'll let you, that's a bunch of new taxes. And it's housing, that's exactly what we're trying to buy here, or to get into the city of Ellsworth, and a lot of cities and towns are doing this. We'll, for a period of 15 years, if you put a covenant that it would be affordable within 10% of the, median income or et cetera, that covenant's on that for that 15 years, we're gonna not have you pay for that 50% of the taxes, and then we'll keep this other, could be for infrastructure, could be for other things. There's also just like smaller pieces too, like we could add this new TIF district, add some more capture and say, hey, the Heart of Ellsworth, which is in our current TIF plan, we're supposed to establish 10 years ago a downtown Portage TIF district in order to pay for investments in the downtown, which we already do. And we could say, hey, we've been funding the Heart of Ellsworth for the last X amount of years through the city general fund, but let's not pay 58 cents on the dollar for that. Whether you agree with that or not, let's pay, get the full dollar credit, because that's the other piece, is we've grown so much that the state looks at Ellsworth and says, wow, $700 million. You went from 1.1 billion to 1.8 billion in 5 years, you're rich. That's like,
We want some of that money.
yeah, we're not going to give money to your schools. We're not going to give as much money to your roads, and the county's going to say, wow, the Ellsworth, you're just this huge place. We're going to charge you more than the other cities and towns. And that becomes a big problem, because we all know in Ellsworth, sure, a lot of valuation increase. A lot of it was new buildings and whatnot. That's new tax rolls. A lot of it was just valuation increasing on the existing city properties, because it has been such a valuable asset. And this isn't like a lot of areas that has a huge high income level. So those cost increases, we get less state funding and there's more on the current city taxpayers. So this is an opportunity to really take a lot of the look at just what we're doing now. And then there's that other piece too, where, going forward with these applications, putting these pieces, there's also a do nothing scenario even after that. You can, as a zero capture, we can say we're establishing the TIF districts to preserve the option of sequestering that growth. I know, Steve, you call it a slush fund. I kind of consider that, it's like your accountant says, hey, you're spending a bunch of money like on retirement, but you could put it in a Roth IRA. And that's a lot better place to put it. It's a shelter, it's a tax shelter. And that to me is what this is for, especially as it comes to things we're already spending money on. It's important. And also that second round of the credit enhancement agreements, we only have a little bit of workforce in senior housing. Will the council want to move forward on a little bit more of a active approach with encouraging residential growth? I think that would be the real area. If somebody wants to build a hotel here, should we give them a credit enhancement agreement? Maybe not. We just had a new hotel come in here. If they want to build a lot of affordable housing, and when I say affordable, I don't mean public housing, I mean like market or a little bit less than market rate housing. And then there's another, I told myself I wouldn't get too complicated, but in 2030, our current economic development TIF is running out. So in some ways, if we don't develop new TIFs to start capturing new growth, we could copy and paste our current activities, which are allowed to keep those economic development activities, let that TIF sunset in 2030, and then focus on the new TIF to fund those activities. But there's also a new state law, I believe, that allows you to do a 20-year extension on your current TIFs if I think 75% is focused on housing. So we could essentially migrate current economic development activities towards the new TIF, redesignate the old TIFs, still keep that capture so that we're not putting $58 million back on the tax rolls immediately. And in the 2030 council, which hopefully you'll all be here for, you'll have additional tools in your tool belt on the housing crisis.
Did you know that's only 4 years from now?
I know.
2030 sounds like wow, but it's
Yeah.
4 years.
That's true, I might be around.
And to Steve's point earlier on, the founders of getting this building, I mean, to think that 1934, place birds down in a couple years, they got a new, government working at that speed. I know that was, the Great Depression, that was a totally,
Somewheres I've got paperwork that says how this whole building was put here.
Oh, that's
Versus
right.
them building it where the old Masonic Hall was, which was where Hancock Hall was. I don't know where it is, but
well, they're looking.
I just know this was totally brand new.
the looking ahead is key here. I mean, some of these things will be able to fund current activities better than we are, but also it's looking a little ahead as we continue this growth. How do we keep pots of money so that we can invest $30 million in the downtown and not have to add a $3 million bond in year one?
Or in a facility for buses and other things.
There's a little bit of complications on that.
Okay, that's fine. Save it for another day.
Yeah, I don't know if Reagan wants to say anything, because she's been so instrumental in getting us to this place, and her, her expertise has been very valuable. I don't know, Reagan, if you want to chime in, or if you're good.
No, I have appreciated listening to both you and Charlie discuss the TIP. I think you're right on point. If the council has any additional questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them, but I think you covered it very well tonight.
Thank you
Great,
for
thank you.
learning from the best.
This has been noticed as a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing. If anyone has comments on this matter, please approach the dais. Seeing none, close the public hearing. So we don't need to do a vote here tonight?
No, I mean, it seems like I'm not hearing massive antagonism from the community and the council, like, this is still a lot of work. Twyla and I are, we're doing all these things, so it was an opportunity to say if we need to pump the brakes, like.
And we're going to bring this up at the March workshop?
At the workshop and the official vote.
At the March meeting.
At the March meeting.
Great.
So we'll go from there, and it's also just Reagan and, it's like my favorite meeting of the last year and a half was Reagan and Twyla and Mike Harris and our fire chief talking TIF. It was like the nerdiest, most interesting government conversation I've had.
Not surprised.
That's my happy place.
Surely. Great. Well, thank you very much. Very informative, and I look forward to working through it in March. With that, I'll move on to the next agenda item, number 21, Council Order number 022608, discussion and potential action on the City Hall Security and Safety Plan. Manager Pierce and Deputy Manager Devlin.
Hi, good evening. Sarah Devlin, Deputy City Manager. I'm here tonight to discuss implementing selected recommendations from the City Hall Physical Security and Safety Plan, which was developed by the Ellsworth Police Department last year. I want to start by making it very clear that this is not about limiting access to City Hall, and it is not about discouraging public input. Public engagement is very important to the staff, and even when it's passionate, it's part of our local government, and we certainly welcome it. What I am here to talk about and address is a pattern that has developed over the past several months. Staff, both inside City Hall and out in the field, have experienced an increase in interactions that feel personal and disruptive, and sometimes they can be intimidating. And what we are, there have been statements directed at staff such as, "Your time is coming, and I look forward to ending you." There have also been repeated accusations of corruption, theft, misconduct, and several disruptions during critical staff meetings. While any single incident may be manageable on its own, the cumulative effect has been meaningful. It affects morale, focus, and the overall work environment. It also requires staff to de-escalate situations and regroup. That time would be otherwise spent serving our residents. As an organization, we have a responsibility to provide a workplace that is safe and professional. Taking reasonable steps to support that responsibility is simply good governance. The safety plan referenced was developed more than a year ago by the Ellsworth Police Department, and the chief is here if we want to talk about any specifics about how the plan was developed. It outlines measured, phased improvements, including training, operational adjustments, and modest physical security upgrades. These are not extreme changes. They are practical steps designed to strengthen our systems while preserving public access. Initially, we recommend upgrading our current security system, expanding coverage to areas that do not currently exist. In the current FY26 budget, we have included $15,000 for these upgrades, and additional funding would allow us to complete the full coverage. Our IT director will touch on this on a later agenda item tonight. Following these improvements, I am recommending the consideration of a second floor redesign to incorporate a service counter for assessing, planning, and code enforcement. This would create a clear and welcoming point of contact for visitors, improve coordination, and help manage movement within the building in a structured way. Many municipalities operate under this configuration. This proposal is about structure, clarity, and safety, not restriction. City employees are committed public servants who care deeply about this community. Providing them with a safe, respectful work environment ensures that they can continue to serve the residents effectively. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the deputy city manager on this matter? Okay. I don't have any questions, and I just say thank you for bringing this to us. I will say that in my work as a municipal attorney, I've been to many town and city halls, and many of them are set up as the way we're discussing. You can't just walk, Ellsworth's pretty unique. You can just walk into the building and basically walk into anyone's office. The majority of the city, especially ones of this size, there's a single point of contact where you go in and you say, hey, I'm here to talk to the deputy city manager, or I'm here to talk to the tax assessor, and then you're brought in. So this makes a lot of sense to me, and yeah, we need to take care of our staff, and they're asking for this, so I don't see any reason not to do it. Councilor Mondino?
I'm just trying to understand, how does that solve the abusive problem, having the gateway thing?
Yeah, the chief and I talked a little bit about this too. I'd originally, because this happened, a year and a half ago or so, I new to municipal government, came in, and we had a series of events that were pretty dramatic, and of people wandering around, non-public. So you have your public areas where you have to do city business. As you mentioned, Councilor Lyons, go into specific areas, like they're designed to do so, if something were to happen. And there's other areas that are, offices for employees. They've had issues of former elected officials wandering around drunk behind counters. We've had issues of just general public in our finance area that has a vault and a safe. Every single door here is open to that extent. And I think there was a period in time where that was okay. And talking to the chief, there's, I wanted to show you the whole plan. Here's how it could change things, but also talking to the chief, and he can countermand me here, is we don't talk about the security changes that we're going to do. And I know from personal experience, before doing this, I was in politics for a while. I spent a year and a half with Governor Mitt Romney as his trip director on a presidential campaign, spending every single day with him, working with Secret Service, learning about security features in a way that I never knew. A well set up venue, departures, training for staff, egresses and ingresses. This building was, as we mentioned, was built in 1934, was not, I think this conceived probably in 34, maybe 35 was or 36 was the actual building. Wasn't really thinking about security in that way. So we did one small thing. We used to be able to walk into this alcove here in the front area. So about a year and a half ago, the one thing we did do from the security recommendations was lock that external door, because we had people that were sleeping in the alcove in the middle of the night, sometimes urinating in that area, and we'd had staff that would have to come in the morning and kind of rush through there. So that was the one piece we made, but there were other recommendations that we can go there. And I know, especially when I saw what happened with President Trump at that rally event, I remember having worked in those same situations. When you argue with security and police about, hey, we want to be man of the people, and I don't want 6-foot barricades and bike racks and this and that. When I saw that event, it was just, A, I hope everybody's safe and secure, and then B, like, oh, I'm so glad that never happened to me then. Or that I wasn't arguing with the Secret Service, like, we don't need the security, this is all a bunch of people complaining about it, and then it happens, and and I think especially that's kind of the point, Sarah, especially with this latest round of issues, what can we do? You can never guarantee those types of things, but you can really take the police recommendations on securing the building as best we can, while trying to keep in mind public access as much as possible. But there are always trade-offs. And So I think that's one of the things, training, other pieces, but up to your, Carol as well, it's a different time. They had like verbal judo was something they offered from MMA, and when I first came here, I was like, what in the world is this? And now that I'm here, I know. You get screamed at a lot in this job.
Yeah,
You get
and-
threats a lot.
As I stated, it's a combination of training and operational changes and some physical movement adjustments within the building. But a lot of the abuse is happening virtually, via email and things like that. So we're still encouraging staff to keep a record of such abuse and the things that are being said to them by all sorts of different people within the city. So this is one step in that direction, but our staff needs to be supported in a lot of ways. So it's really important to us.
Councilor Haller, or Councilor N. Smith?
3 points. First, I'm sorry. Just going to leave it at that. Secondly, I think we started some of this with the counter in the front office, that's part of the reason that was redesigned. I go in and it still feels welcoming. I understand where I go to pay my excise tax on my car registration, and it keeps everybody safe. The other thing I want to share from my experience going into the state legislature to lobby, it was sometime in the last 10 years, maybe 5, that the security system was put in for the Capitol. It's like going through the airport. You don't have to take your shoes off, but you go through security. They just this year added it to the cross office building that's there. So testifying in front of those committees or going to see the offices that are there, you're now going through security. I think this is a very sad reality of where we are now, and I think it's a shame that public service means both elected and staff that you face this level of awfulness.
Hostility.
Yeah, hostility. So when we get to that point, certainly fully support the pending measure to make sure you all get what you need.
And I apologize too, the order is, we're going to have to wait.
Yeah, we're sorry
one,
about
and
that.
then
That was-
Jason will come in, he'll put down his duties of filming this event.
We can move it. Well, I'll ask to have Jason come next. Just on the agenda, switch them. Councilor Haller?
I realize that it's difficult to talk about the measures that are being put in place, and I respect that. But I would like to know an estimated dollar amount that you're talking about here. And I would also like to know, it seems that banks have reduced and they don't have locking counters. They have islands now that you go into. It seems very much different than it once was. Maybe it's because they don't have money at banks anymore. I don't know the reason. But I just like to hear about what kind of money we're talking about here. And is there a happy medium? I mean, I understand security points of view, but when you walk into the banks today, from the outside looking in, maybe it's because they don't have money, that there's probably a lot more to it than I understand. But they've gone from locking places to islands.
Well, I can't speak to banks
Right.
because I don't work at a bank,
I
but,
can speak to the second.
okay.
Actually, Ebony, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so they've changed that, so I
do
get,
have money there.
Well.
And I hated the islands because you're completely open. I had customers that came over standing beside me and I hate it.
I'm so shocked at
The
that.
money is more protected in the big machines, but you do have some of that.
Right.
And I would say I've talked to a few banks that have gone this route, and Ebony, and some of the employees aren't a big fan of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'd also note that this is also the equivalent of like our front counter area. You can go there, but there's also, I've been to First National, they have that little area, but I can't just open the door to the back offices in First National, go grab the finance analyst and start yelling at them and say, what are you working on right now? Hey, I'm in a meeting, no, I want to see what you're working on right now. That's what we're talking about, that there's back offices where staff are working, out of nowhere, a citizen comes in, pretty hot and upset. And, as Sarah mentioned in her discussion, it's not just you're off base for the day. This happened literally a week and a half ago. I was on a conference call with our ordinance reform people, and a citizen was demanding that I leave the meeting and then give them a copy of the draft ordinance, which the city council hadn't even seen yet. I said, hey, I've asked you multiple times to set up a meeting. I will have a monthly meeting with the citizen. I'll do it. And he said, I'm not doing emails. I'm not doing meetings. So this is the type of thing where I don't want a citizen like that being able to just go into any staff member's office. Yep, you can come to the front office area and you can do your business. For registrations and clerks and other things, we have to do that. But staff that are working on really important things for the city and working their tail off don't deserve that.
So we're not looking to implement all of the safety plan right now. What we're looking, and a lot of the training is at either a free or very reduced cost through MMA, but this is just really looking at the mobility throughout the building. Jason can talk about the additional costs, but as I mentioned, $15,000 is already programmed, and that was to upgrade the access points that already had some security measures. And we're looking at an additional 18, which we have in our building reserve account for improvements to the places that don't have access.
33.
Oh, yeah, but 15 of it's already appropriated, but yes.
That's what I.
And I think over the next, year, looking at what a redesign of upstairs would look like, how much that would cost to provide some limited access to people's workspace, not the public space necessarily.
Councilor White?
People in Ellsworth have been used to being able to walk upstairs and kind of just knock on a door and have that time to meet with code or assessing. So have you guys thought about how the public will be able to schedule meetings with the staff up there?
Yeah, they'll still be able to access them in real time as long as they're available for they're not in a meeting, which is just like today. But they just will have to go through an additional step to do so.
Okay.
But we have been talking about how to provide, like, book an appointment, something like that on our website.
Yeah, because I know that there are a lot of people that come in here frustrated that the person that they want to see is not in the place that they're supposed to be, because I don't know if we have a good way to set up meetings currently.
And having appropriate staffing levels up there with having one point of contact that can kind of manage that entire group will help that as well.
Certainly, thank you.
Any further questions from council? Seeing none, I'd entertain if anyone would like to make a motion on this matter. Councilor Shea?
Move to authorize the city manager to implement phased recommendations from the City Hall Physical Security and Safety Plan to include training, operational controls, physical security measures to support safe, respectful work environment for employees and the public to ensure continued effective delivery of municipal services.
I second.
You have M and double second.
Good job.
Squared.
Right on
Although I
fire.
think M was a little quicker than N for the record.
She's younger.
Exactly. Step ahead of you. Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Yeas have it. And yeah, I'd like to move, switch 22 and 23. 23 further relates to this regarding the costs. He's a good sport, he'll be fine. Any objections from council, just moving that around? All right, so we'll take up, thanks, Chief. We'll take up 23, Council Order Number 022610, Public Health and Action on the request of the IT Systems Administrator to purchase, install, and implement enhanced security and access control measures at City Hall. Jason.
Good evening, Jason Ingalls, IT Systems Admin. I don't think I need to go too much further from what you've already heard. So what this will do, what we're asking for is a upgraded access control system for City Hall, something that we've already started working towards, even before this. The new system is more modernized. It's a web-based program versus the old system, which is over 10 years old now. So this will upgrade all the existing already electronic access controls to the new system. It'll bring on access controls for the second floor of the building and also the elevator. So we'll have access control to all levels of the building, including the fire department. So, and that's the gist of what we're asking here. I don't know if you have any more in-depth questions than that. This will include the ability to video conference, or not video conference, but video intercom with offices on the second floor from the first floor. And they'll have access, they'll have the ability to unlock doors from their video consoles, so.
How long would it take to implement this?
This I would say 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to before, but thinking about my commission meeting that's now held in the auditorium upstairs, before we get somebody in that place, how do we ensure that the members that are coming, or the volunteers that are coming to serve on the commission, can get in easily in the meantime of having a person kind of manning?
I think there'll be some logistics to work out, but I don't see them as though not, we can work out those details. We can issue fobs to certain people that may need them. We can have timer-based access if we want to do that. There's several options we can go to accommodate those things, but there's some logistics we can work out as we work through it.
Okay, great.
So,
And multiple people can unlock
yes.
the door, so.
Question, would also help on, I know we have that problem currently with meetings where, the door might get locked or unlocked, and we try to do everything we can, but would that help you?
It's gonna be a button.
What's that?
It's gonna be a button.
It's gonna be a button. Okay.
So it'll be on the wall, behind the gate. Flip the button, unlocks the outside doors. We could look at doing something like that for the, in certain interior doors. There's a lot of it. The system's very scalable, very.
But will it also help on the front and other key fob
Yeah,
doors
so-
of the remote system, so you can?
We can add any door we want to that, so when you flip the switch, it'll basically go into meeting mode, whatever you want to call it, and it'll unlock the exterior doors, and when you're done for that, you flip it back.
So I don't have to run over there pounding on your doors?
No, it happened tonight, so, yeah.
Okay. Any further questions, Councilor Howland?
I have just a comment, and it's a little off base, but I'd like to applaud your department for all that you do with two people doing all of the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are hiring out the cabling on this one. We're not doing this one. We designed the system, but we're hiring out the legwork.
Understood.
Any further questions from council for Jason? This is noticed as a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Anyone from the public would like to approach, please come to the dais and state your name. And you may. And then we have another public member that looks like.
I just want to say, as an employee here, I've had multiple occasions that I think might have been avoided if we had something like this. On more than one occasion, I have taken a step back and wondered, what is that person going to do? And how quickly can they get through here? I'm not somebody who's easily shaken. And I wasn't afraid so much for myself, but I worry about the other employees. So while I was not so much in favor of all of this a year ago, I think now it's not so much me, but the employees that are working the counter that I worry about. And I just think this is great, and whatever we can do would help me. Now, if you can manage to get the phone calls that are threatening taken care of, then I'd be forever indebted. But I just wanted to say that as an employee, I've experienced this in more than one way, and I think that this is really needed. That's all.
Thank you. And would you like to provide public comment on this matter?
I apologize, we were very late, we were traveling, and I wanted to attend this. So
Oh,
I'm bringing
can you-
here
can you
with
approach?
agenda number 11, and I really
Oh.
related to
Oh.
agenda number 10.
Okay, well,
On the agenda.
yeah, well, you've missed the boat on that one. So we can, if it's not for this matter, then we'd ask you to. But you can, that, there's folks in the city that you can provide comments to and. or-
Yeah, absolutely.
As long as somebody can let me know the proper way to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll do that. Thank you. Anyone else from the public on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to proceed? M. Smith?
I can, I can read the motion.
If you, yeah, please, if you'd like to.
I move to authorize $18,000 from the City Hall Reserve account to cover the costs associated with the purchase, installation, and implementation of enhanced security and access control measures at City Hall, including key fob access for the elevator and second floor office areas in order to improve workplace safety and protect city staff, visitors, and municipal assets.
Boom, nailed it. You have a second?
A second?
Second from Councilor White. Any further discussion from the city council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Ayes carry it. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Final matter on the agenda. Roddy, would you like to? Council Order Number 022609, public hearing and action on the request of the Parks and Recreation Facilities Director to authorize acceptance of the bid proposal for Phase 1 of the City Hall window and door replacement project. We have our Parks and Rec Director.
Good evening, Roddy Erlenbach, Parks and Rec and Facilities Director.
Sorry.
That's okay. It was a surprise to me too.
We have no fun.
Zing. So back early December, we put an RFP out for a multi-phased project that would, over the course of a couple phases, there was a hard and fast timeline. But over several phases would replace the window, potentially the windows, but primarily the window interface with the brick is the best way I can say it. The first phase we looked at was replacing the 2 round windows on the south facade that are original from, as we all know after tonight's meeting, 1935. And 4 round windows up in the cupola that are also original from 1935. And the south doorway, which is also original from 1935. Specifically the windows up in the cupola were identified in a 2019 building envelope study as a cause or a source of weather infiltration. Part of that was taken care of this past summer with the reflashing and the repair of the copper roof of the cupola. The windows still allow wind-driven rain into the building, so the building is leaking. It was before I arrived, but I believe the water damage that was repaired over the summer was a product of that weather infiltration that was coming from the cupola. And since that repair has been finished, our insurance provider, MMA, has directed us to repair or replace the windows. They haven't come out and said they're not going to cover any additional damages, but I think the writing is on the wall there. So that's the purpose for the windows up in the cupola. The other two round windows down here on the south facade are in what's now the firefighters' quarters. They also leak. The Martin Luther King Day storm, the snow was up over them. Snow was melting and just running down into the basement. The door, I don't know how many of you have seen the door, but the original door, as I'm told, had an astragal or a mullion strip. I believe it was if you're looking at the door, the left panel did not actuate originally. And to meet code compliance, that mullion strip or astragal was removed, which took away all the weather sealing properties of the door. So now we have a 3/8 inch gap between the two door panels. The door that's there now currently does not meet current fire safety codes. And I had this conversation with Jason after the fact when the RFP came in. There is an update to the memo that if we do replace the door, we have to replace all of the hardware to make it code compliant, which is the add-on that you received today when you arrived on the packet, which is the cost of the hardware that we would need to bring that up to code. With phase one, we only had a single bid proposal, which was from Mainly Vinyl. They've done a lot of work here at City Hall in the past. They were one of 4 people that came to do a tour of the building and attempt to put a bid in, but sourcing the south door, they were the only company that was able to find a company that would build that door, just because it's custom. It's a custom door, and replacement of that door includes the 2 panels, but also the transom light over the top that would be installed as one unit. So as you can see, the scope of work for the windows, 22,705, and then there's an add-on price of 3,500 to repair a window well that's down in the firefighters' quarters to replace one of those round windows. The original quote on the door was 16,860. They came back with I'm not going to call it a quote. It was a over-the-top cost estimate because we could not get a quote from the people who make the door. So Mainly Vinyl provided this number saying this is more than it would ever possibly cost to get this hardware. I just wanted to give you guys the highest number possible with the understanding that we're going to come in under that number. So the request is for a total of $39,565 for the windows and the doors, and then an add-on not to exceed $12,000 for the hardware to bring the code up to compliance, or the door up to code compliance. And at this point, if you have any questions, I would gladly entertain them.
Any questions, Roddy? Councilor Halloran?
We're talking about the front door of this building? Okay. And you're giving us a not-to-exceed number?
Just for the hardware.
Okay, so what's the total amount, including the not-to-exceed hardware?
$51,565 for 6 windows in the door.
It's in the, Steve, it's in the suggestion. We had.
Oh, the new, okay, no wonder, I'm
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, yeah, that's right, you gave us something.
I didn't know what that, okay, I'm with you. Sorry.
Oh, yep.
Got it.
There it is.
Thank you, I'm looking at the old stuff.
Yeah,
and-
sorry.
Okay, that's,
And I do apologize for the last minute update. This came to our attention on Thursday afternoon, that the hardware would need to be updated and replaced, whereas we were trying to affect some cost savings by using what's there currently for security and access control, which is not an option.
Any further questions for Roddy? Councilor Martineau?
All the openings stay exactly the same, correct? Okay.
That's the big cost for the door, because it has to match
Yeah, sorry
what was
about
there
that.
originally. No, it's worth it. I think so anyway.
If there's no other questions for Roddy, this is notice of a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Anyone from the public would like to proceed to speak to this issue, please do so. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, any further questions, discussions, or proposed motions? Manager Pierce?
I just thought the motion would need to say from the City Hall reserve account. At
The updated motion does.
Oh, it
I
does?
apologize.
Sorry. I'm looking.
Is that the same as the recommended?
The recommended, the revised recommended motion on the update that was given to you this evening.
Councilor White?
If approved, when would they start work?
12 to 16 weeks.
Councilor Manager Pierce?
And I would also know that obviously Sarah has been working on the capital improvement plan, which we're going to start doing. This is part and parcel of that. This is really kind of it's one of the not so nice things about not leasing a building is when you own it, you got to fix all these things. I think that's one of the, I think I have a different philosophical bent in general, which is, yeah, do not, I've been in too many government buildings that fall to such disrepair, and then at some point the bill comes due and you're spending a ton of money on it. I mean, this one's was 2019 when we got the MMA, and it was Sue's great work. She contacted them. I guess somebody put it on the list and they never did it. So this city council and Roddy and I, like, we're dealing with it. But, you know, it's for leaking to the building. Gosh, you can see the weather coming through that on a snowy day.
You gotta take care of your infrastructure. And that, part of infrastructure is the city buildings. You know what I mean? And this is something that probably should have been addressed a long time ago.
And they've talked about the whole building envelope. We have repointing of all the bricks. We have, you can see that front stairs area is getting a little shaky.
They've remodeled the front steps, I don't know how many times. You know, there's been different configurations, and I think we got more on the steps than we do the building.
That might be true.
Any further questions for Roddy, or do we have a proposal?
I got a motion.
Well, let's hear it. Councilor Shea,
Move
please.
to authorize acceptance of the bid proposal from Mainly Binding in the amount of $39,565.00 for Phase 1 of City Hall window and door replacement, and further authorize up to $1,200.
12,000.
12,000, yeah, well, okay, I'm trying to, give me a break. For required security hardware and access components, control components. The total project authorization not to exceed $51,565 and no change. Payment from the City Hall Reserve account, and authorize the city manager to execute necessary contracts and related documents subject to legal review.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. And thank you, Roddy.
It's the fastest agenda item of the evening.
You win. You're welcome. Saved it for last, Roddy.
Talk
Well,
about your
actually, I think we
review
can
and
beat
then,
that. We have one more agenda item with adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? So approved.